In July of 2026, the city of New York published a tourism map for the FIFA World Cup. 30 immigrant neighborhoods, all listed. Little Yemen, little Bangladesh, little Haiti, little Guyana, little Pakistan, little Italy was not on the map. No argument was made against it. No decree was issued. One of the oldest immigrant communities in American history, the neighborhood where Sicilian and Calabrian families arrived between 1880 and 1920 and built something from nothing. Where the Feast of San Gennaro has run for a century, that neighborhood simply did not appear. The cartography moved on without it. The Italian-American community noticed. They organized. They named the omission publicly. The map was corrected. I want to talk about a map that has not been corrected. And I want to talk about what happens to people who keep asking their cartographer to fix it when the cartographer drew the map that way on purpose. Here's what makes erasure more dangerous than suppression. Suppression requires an argument, a decree, a trial, a stated reason, and the stated reasons can be answered. St. Athanasius answered the stated reasons of the Arians across 5 exiles and outlasted every emperor who tried to silence him. Argumentation, even when backed by imperial power, has a structural weakness. It produces martyrs, and martyrs recruit. Erasure produces no martyrs. The map simply stops listing you. You vanish not into blood, but into irrelevance. Irrelevance, unlike persecution, leaves no heroic narrative for the next generation to find. And this is what happened to the old faith after 1969, not a formal condemnation, not a dogmatic declaration that the ancient Roman rite was invalid. Summorum Pontificum in 2007 confirmed what honest canonists had always maintained. The ancient rite was never abrogated, because it was never merely a papal privilege to withdraw. What happened instead was precisely this. The rite ceased to appear on the official map. Diocesan directories did not list it. Seminary formation did not include it. Generations of Catholics grew up with no knowledge that this neighborhood existed, because that neighborhood was not on any map they were given. Monsignor Robert Hugh Benson saw this coming in 1907. Lord of the World is not a conspiracy novel. It is a novel about a humanitarian program with institutional momentum, genuine believers at every level, and one consistent directional consequence. The faith becomes invisible. Benson's antagonist never refutes the Mass. He makes the Mass seem like a neighborhood the modern world has simply grown past. No suppression required. The map is redrawn, and the ancient quarter is not on it. Leo XIII named the mechanism in Libertas Praesentesimum in 1888. The liberal program did not need to suppress the church directly. It needed only to ensure that the church received no official recognition in the ordering of public life. For removal from the map of consequence, you do not ban the church. You decline to list her among the institutions whose voice is consulted. And over time, absence from the map functions as a prohibition without the legal liability of prohibition. 138 years later, the Synodal Church publishes a preparatory document for October's meeting on Amoris Laetitia. 5 thematic panels accompanying questions for each. One of those questions asks the assembled bishops, what forms of resistance continue to emerge? The resistance being cataloged is anyone who holds what the church held before 1965. The consultation is exhaustive. The exclusion is total. The old faith is not a voice in that conversation. It is a problem the conversation is designed to solve. Before I go further, I want to name something that Michael Matt has said plainly, and that very few others will admit. The traditional Latin Mass was never restored out of love for tradition. Ecclesia Dei in 1988 appeared within days of Archbishop Lefebvre's consecrations. Summorum Pontificum in 2007 came after decades of sustained SSPX growth that had proved unstoppable by other means. Pope Benedict himself said it in the accompanying letter. The motu proprio was issued primarily to assist the Society of St. Pius X's attempt to recover full unity with the successor of St. Peter. The TLM was offered as a management tool. Distance yourself from the society, here is your Mass, and when that strategy failed to dissolve the organized resistance, Traditionis Custodes canceled the indult in 2021. And when the SSPX consecrated 4 new bishops on July 1st of this year, bishops in Oslo and Madrid and elsewhere promptly announced that they would offer more traditional masses in their dioceses. The lever appeared again. Here's what that means for every person who's attended a diocesan TLM since 1988. You received it not because the hierarchy discovered a pastoral love for the ancient rite. You received it because the hierarchy needed an alternative to offer people who might otherwise go to the society or jurisdictions like my own. When the alternative serves its purpose, the indult is withdrawn, and when the resistance reasserts itself, the alternative reappears. This is not a pastoral relationship, it is a management cycle, and no amount of patience and obedience on the part of the barely tolerated guest breaks the cycle, because the cycle exists to manage the guest, not to welcome them. Now, in my case, I'm a juridically irregular bishop. I have more clergy friends in the Novus Ordo than not, and we agree to disagree on theology. And most support my path personally while admitting they would not have taken it themselves. And that's fair enough, I respect that. I'm not standing here as someone whose position is tidy. I'm standing here as someone who has made a specific choice and can account for it. And from that position, let me speak about two people I genuinely respect. Dr. Taylor Marshall and Mother Miriam of the Lamb of God are not enemies of the faith. Their instinct is the Gamaliel instinct of Acts 5. Stay with the visible structure, trust providence. Let God sort the crisis through legitimate channels. I do not think a man who stays is evil or a lesser Christian. He is making an adult decision with the best information he has. And that deserves respect, not our suspicion. But there is something neither of them has yet reckoned with honestly. There is a very real risk that it is they who have made the un-Catholic decision. That sentence is not an insult. It's a theological observation with a precise historical precedent. The bishops who sided with Liberius against Athanasius were not malicious men. They were institutional men, making what seemed like the prudent, structurally correct choice. History named them Arians anyway, not because they intended heresy, because the destination of their accommodation was heresy. Intention does not determine destination. The road to Arianism was paved with episcopal prudence. Mother Miriam said something unusually honest in her response. She listened to Father Altman, agreed with every word of the diagnosis, found her heart in complete agreement with the whole of his critique, and then concluded she must obey anyway, that is the accommodationist position in its most transparent form. It does not pretend that evidence is ambiguous. It asserts that submission to the visible structure supersedes the evidence about what that structure is currently doing. The question obedience cannot answer for itself is this: obedience to what end? When the command is ordered not to sanctification but to erasure, the virtue of obedience does not sanctify the command, it sanctifies the martyr who refuses it. St. Vincent Ferrer backed the wrong Avignon claimant during the Great Schism, when three men simultaneously claimed the papacy. History still canonized him because his fidelity to the faith itself was unimpeachable, and he worked many miracles. The question that mattered was not which man the cardinals preferred. It was what the church actually taught. St. Joan of Arc was condemned by a legitimate ecclesiastical court, presided over by a validly and licit ordained bishop, operating under canonical procedure. The verdict was formally correct by every procedural standard available to her accusers. She was burned. 25 years later, the verdict was annulled. The church canonized her. The argument that canonical authority must be obeyed because it is canonical authority, applied without remainder, would have required her to go quietly. St. Athanasius, contra mundum, he held. He was right. The church eventually said so. He also consecrated bishops without papal approval, and that detail tends to disappear from certain tellings of the story, and most certainly from Catholic Twitter. A priest posted a screenshot this week quoting Blessed Pius IX's Quartus Supra against SSPX. Whoever the Roman pontiff judges to be a schismatic for not expressingly admitting and reverencing his power must stop calling himself Catholic. Well, Blessed Pius IX also wrote the Syllabus of Errors in 1864, condemned Proposition 80, that the Roman pontiff can and should reconcile himself with progress, liberalism, and modern civilization. Anathema sit. The same pontiff whose authority is brandished against traditionalists would have placed the Islamic prayer ceremonies in Vatican precincts, fiducia supplicans, the Abrahamic family house in Abu Dhabi, and Cardinal Ratcliffe's liturgical blessing and understanding of same-sex couples under formal condemnation. You can't quote Pius IX as a weapon against people who hold what Pius IX held, while defending an institution that has canonized in practice what Pius IX anathematized in print. The selective pre-1960 citation is not a theological argument. It is a debating posture wearing borrowed vestments. Now, St. Robert Bellarmine, Cardinal, Doctor of the Church, a Jesuit from the order most identified with absolute obedience to the Pope, although these days it's often equated with the Society of Judas, the great defender of papal authority was St. Robert. And he defended this authority against the Protestants of his age. In his major theological work on the Roman pontiff, Bellarmine wrote this: just as it is permitted to resist the pontiff who attacks the body, it is permitted to resist one who attacks souls or disturbs public order, and it is even more permitted to resist him if he destroys the church. It is permitted to resist him by not doing what he commands and by preventing the execution of his will, but it is not permitted to judge him, punish him, or depose him. Cardinal Cajetan says the same. Francesco di Viatora says the same. Thomas Aquinas in the Summa says the same, citing St. Peter himself: we must obey God rather than men. And these are not fringe polemicists. They are among the greatest theological minds the Church has ever produced, writing before and after the definition of papal infallibility, all reaching the same conclusion. Blind obedience to a pope who destroys the Church is not a virtue. It is a catastrophic failure dressed as piety. The accommodationists quote Boniface VIII and Pius IX on papal authority. The theological tradition gives us Bellarmine, Cajetan, de Viatora, and Aquinas on legitimate resistance. And the question is not whether resistance is ever licit, it is whether the current situation meets the criteria those doctors established. And the fruits I just named: the preparatory document cataloging resistance to Amoris Laetitia, the October meeting designed to suppress it, Fiducia Supplicans, the appointment of a Universalist as prefect of the doctrine of the faith. Those are the fruits by which you shall know them. Let me say something pastoral about the Society of Pius X. The canonical appeal, filed July 11th under Canon 1734, is actually quite strong. Honest canonists who disagree with the consecrations have acknowledged the Cardinal Fernandez decree has serious canonical problems. And Kennedy Hall's account of Dom Pagliaroni's conduct over the preceding years is important. 2 unanswered requests for a papal audience, letters responded to with threats, a meeting with Cardinal Fernandez that produced demands so sweeping that Cardinal Mueller himself has publicly rejected some of the documents the Society was asked to accept. Their superior, Dom Pagliaroni, followed the Lord's own procedure from Matthew 18. Private correspondence first, then formal petition, then public action. When both were ignored, he asked for bread. He received a poisoned stone. But here is where the canonical argument cannot address. The Society is asking Cardinal Fernandez to adjudicate whether their act of preserving the faith was licit. They are asking the mayor who deleted the neighborhood from the map to please consider putting it back. This is the posture of the barely tolerated guest watching the host's face for signs of renewed displeasure. It has been the Society's structural posture since 1988. Every act of provisional Roman tolerance has been experienced not as a right grounded in apostolic continuity, but as a reprieve. There is a word for that dynamic. It is codependency. And codependency, even in its ecclesial form, is not a foundation for the restoration. The Italian-American Civil Rights League did not petition Mayor Mamdani to internally review his cartographic process. They organized publicly, named the erasure as erasure, and made the omission unsustainable. The neighborhood went back on the map, not because the administration had a change of heart, but because the community refused to accept invisibility as their condition. Let me close with something personal. The SSPX excommunication, and specifically the document on conditions for reversion to Roman communion, has made Rome's actual terms public in a way that 1988 never did. Signing that document requires affirming Vatican II according to the interpretation given by the current magisterium, and undertaking never to criticize the Pope's teaching publicly. These are the actual terms. They are now on record. I am not here to tell you those terms are impossible to accept. I am here to tell you they are real, and that honest people deserve to know what they are actually being asked to sign. If you hold the faith I hold, but want to remain canonically regular, here is my honest counsel. Write your bishop directly. Tell him you are loyal to him and that in conscience you cannot affirm that every post-1960s innovation was of God. Ask him plainly for permission to hold these convictions in conscience while you remain under his authority and submit to the church's judgment. If he grants it, the matter's settled, and it is his to answer for before God, not yours. But if your conscience cannot assent to Rome's actual published terms, you are facing a real and difficult choice, not a comfortable one, and not one I can make for you. I would rather see a man wrestle honestly with that choice, even arrive somewhere I would not, than smile at his bishop while quietly living otherwise. Subjection to one's bishop has to mean something, or it means nothing at all. Now, to the baptized person who has been watching all of this and wondering what to do, you are not an orphan petitioning a hostile bureaucracy. You are a member of a church whose apostolic succession runs through lines that predate the controversies of the 1960s. The See of Cariglau traces its succession through Utrecht from the year 696, through Leonine privilege of 1520, through the Matthew, William, Shelley, and Humphreys line. We hold all 20 doctrinal councils through Vatican I in their de fide aspects, excluding all innovation contrary. We hold the papacy as a divine institution. We maintain a formal dubium regarding the post-2013 pontificates rather than a sede vacantis conclusion. Essentially, it's above our pay grade. We are not the SSPX. We do not need Rome's recognition to exist. We are not the sede vacantis, although we count many as well as Novus Ordo among our friends. We are also not caught in increasingly recursive question of what claimant has valid orders or who is listed and who is not. We are not the FSSP or the ICSIP, dependent on a dicastery whose prefect believes everyone is saved for permission to ordain our priests in the traditional rite. We are simply the neighborhood that stayed lit while the official map was being redrawn. Leo XIII in Satis Cognitum in 1896 was precise. Unity with the visible church is achieved not by administrative registration, but by communion in faith, sacrament, and governance under legitimate apostolic authority. That communion is available. The address has not changed. Monsignor Benson ended Lord of the World with a final mass offered in the Alban Hills as the airships of the New World Order circled overhead. It is not a scene of despair. It is the image of a neighborhood that refused to become invisible, even after every official map had dropped its address. The priest was there, the altar was there, the sacrifice was offered, and heaven received it. So, Felix, did you know about either Little Italy's Erasure by Mamdani or the brouhaha with Dr. Taylor Marshall and Mother Miriam on turning on the SFPX?
No. Well, actually, I didn't know about the Little Italy thing, but I am not surprised. Not even a little. And I did not. I did kind of hear a little bit about Taylor Marshall turning against SSPX. Yeah, I think, and we talked about this a little bit because this isn't really new, right?
Right.
Yeah, as far as we know.
Yeah, no, it's called. I mean, there's the fallout on Catholic Twitter is still ongoing. You know, I had about 6 tranquil months. I had very rarely did someone sort of give me snark on Twitter, and then I had a bit of a flurry there the last week or so. So I kind of predicted it. I don't know whether I did it on air or not, but I remember telling folks, you know, that the pending excommunications, like this was back in June before they happened, they were going to hit everybody, and it was going to be a real line in the sand because you know, even our own flock, because not necessarily everybody comes to our chapels understands the lay of the land, right? So they just want mass. So they'll say, "Oh, I knew it." I said, "Are we losing our mass and all this kind of stuff?" And I just said, "Well, right. No, we don't. It's like we didn't close for COVID either, even though they did. So, and neither did SSPX. So to their credit, So, I in that little monologue there, I just wanted to bring forth, like, we all have our bit of our Father Nick's. Some of you are fans of Father Nick's. I'm a big fan of Father Nick's. Padre Peregrino is sort of his handle. He's on Substack. He's on Twitter. He's on YouTube. And he wrote a great Substack there, which I should restack on mine so you guys can easily find it, on how basically all the various groups have sort of maybe not shortcoming is the word, but there's some difficulties with every single path you take. If you stay with Novus Ordo, there's risk. If you stay with Fraternity St. Peter, there's a risk. If you go with ICSIP, there's a risk. If you go with me or Pius X, there's risk. Like there's so the question is, and what do I mean by risk? I mean, we have to do what God wants, and anybody who says they definitely know is full of it. All right, they're talking out of an orifice other than their mouth, and it's and the reason being is that like if I was Novus Ordo, and I was for most of my life, your problem is you're complicit. You're complicit with Abrahamic Family House, Communion in the Hand, the Pachamama. Universalism, Fiducia Supplicans, the Tinkerbell blessings. So, I mean, you're complicit with all of that if you stay. And then on the other hand, if you're with SSPX, they're and again, this is not criticism. I'm going to crap on myself in a minute too, right? But SSPX, the problem is they're invoking local bishops that they have no intention of obeying. And then on the Sede side, there's a problem because, okay, well, who are you accountable to? Just everybody's under their own authority, or the authority. Worse, in some cases, some Sede communities are under authority of lay boards and boards of benefactors because it's a necessity for them to fund themselves. So, but they end up being bought. So that's, every single group has its problem. Now, what do we have? Well, again, we have, a canonical dispute that's centuries old and that has yet to be adjudicated. And so we have a gray area too. Or, someone on Twitter was saying, oh, one of your guys was excommunicated by Pius X. True, but they don't inherit. And if you dig into the reason why, it had nothing to do with theological concern. It had everything to do with political concern. And that's a story for another time. We should do a whole episode on that someday. But again, it's not, like I say, there's no safe place. And then the other people, they run off to the Eastern rites. Well, good luck. They're coming for them too. And then somebody, I'll be Orthodox. Well, first of all, if you're baptized in the West, I really encourage you to fight for the West. But here's the problem. You're Orthodox. Some of these Orthodox are as crazy as Novus Ordo. They got deaconesses, they got canonical trans, they got all kinds of craziness. So the thing is, instead of saying, well, my group's the only group and all the other groups are suck, I think a better attitude is to say that God obviously wills the restoration to come from different organs in the body, and that we're all in the same fight, and we shouldn't be crapping on one another. Like, I was disappointed in Mother Miriam. I was disappointed in Dr. Marshall. Father Martin was stirring the pot on Twitter about Dr. Marshall. So those of you who want to see some fur flying, go on Twitter and look at what he said. But and I defended Father Martin against some guy who was making stuff up. But I mean, I'm a little softer than Father Martin on this particular regard, because I understand why Dr. Marshall feels between a rock and a hard place. But I guess the problem is I think if I was in Dr. Marshall's place, I would have phrased my objections a little differently. I would have said, I don't agree with you, Pius X, but, I'm praying for you, and you guys are good and holy priests. There's good and holy lay people, and we're all trying to just serve God, and we're praying for the wound to heal. And you can say that and just say, I think he's a Fraternity St. Peter attendee or something. So he could just say that. I mean, I've chosen to go with Fraternity St. Peter. So he could have said that, but instead, basically, he and Mother piled on and said, these guys are wrong to do it. And that's above their pay grade. Okay. They are not even clergy, either of them. Right. So, well, you could argue maybe, I don't know what Taylor Marshall's full laicization process was. He was a priest at one point with valid orders. So, but again, that's between him and his diocese and him and God. But what I'm getting at is that, these people are at least acting as lay people, or religious and a layman. And as Taylor Marshall himself jokes, I'm just a dad with a webcam. Well, okay, you're a dad with a webcam with like 1 million followers. And the thing is that, it's above your pay grade to have a strong opinion on this. It just is. It's you either speak under the authority of the bishop that you are under, and that goes for Mother Miriam too, right? So so the thing is that anyway, I mean, I could go down a rabbit hole on that, Felix, but it just more or less they're gentle critiques because I like both. I know that both are sincerely just want to go to heaven and help as many other people get there.
Sure,
and
absolutely.
you know, I'm not going to crap on anybody with that mission because it's my mission too. It's just even if we disagree on the details,
you know, it's just I'm and again, this is I'm not speaking for Father Meikle here. You know, this is a midwit, you know, struggling Christian trying to find the right path too. But I'm like, I've almost given up entirely pointing out anything about any other Christian, and I'm talking Baptist, whatever. Like
yep.
The label itself means nothing to me. Well, I mean, it means less to me than what you're doing. You know what I mean? Because yeah, I'll sit.
Well, anybody can say they're Catholic. Anybody can say they're Christian, right? At the end of the day,
exactly.
Like, you have a Pachamama on your shelf.
What are you?
Not Christian, right? Like, I mean, yeah. So it is kind of. I agree with you too, Felix, because you know we brought this up before, but you know in the '90s I was doing street evangelization and trying to do apologetics work with like Catholic Truth Society materials and going after non-denominationals. And what happened was, like, when I look back, I you know, jeepers, I have to pretty well apologize if I ever ran into any of these guys again, these Baptist ministers and non-denominational folks. You know, yeah. Can you imagine if they went Novus Ordo Catholic and then, you know, everything changed?
That's it.
Right. And the ones I feel sorry for, too, are the Muslims that convert and then they risk their lives and their families' lives to convert. And then they come into a, you know, because the thing is, if you convert from reading, study, like you're reading Peter Kraft books and you're reading Catechism of Trent and all this kind of stuff, and you think, oh, I'm definitely Catholic, I'm on my way. And then you end up and you see ukuleles and Darth Vader at the altar and drones flying the monstrance around and dancers. I mean, you know, that's not the faith. And then, you know, and then whenever you bring that up to someone in Novus Ordo, they go, well, that's just the exception. But it's not. Every town that's of significant size to have a liberal and a conservative Catholic church in the same town, that liberal church is barking mad. So it's like, and how can you evangelize to that? No saint pre-1960 would recognize it as Christian, let alone Catholic. Yeah. And that's the truth. So this is what our Novus Ordo friends have to deal with. I have to deal with, you know, before God, my irregularity, my canonical irregularity. They have to deal with the fact that their religion is not the religion Jesus gave us. Not in all of their parishes. I'm not judging any individual. I'm just saying, like, you know yourself. Anybody who's watching this is, if they're Novus Ordo, they're conservative, likely, right? So you know yourself, like, because I've heard it from conservative Novus Ordo. I used to be conservative Novus Ordo. I would walk out if I saw a hymnal that I knew was a radical hymnal. Like if I was traveling and I didn't know whether a church was half decent, and it looked half decent, and then I come in and I see a heretical hymnal, I just walked out. I wouldn't stay for mass or something like that. So it's like, and that's kind of what conservative Catholics have been navigating. Well, depending on your age, you guys, like if you're my age, then you know what I'm talking about. If you're younger, you probably don't in the same way. And if you're really older, maybe you don't. So, but anyway, it's kind of crazy times, Felix.
Yeah. And part of me is just, I'm kind of speechless. I'm kind of in awe. I'm trying to teach myself patience. I do think it's going to work itself out in some weird way. I don't know how, you know, again, but like, I think just to kind of keep going with what we were saying before, I just feel like, and because feel is taking like, is carrying the load on this sentence, but yeah, that we're going to see some sort of unification. I mean that in a very, very different sense, you know, not a liberal kumbaya, but I think that we're going to see people who really want to seek the Lord are going to find a way to kind of unite, you know. And I don't know what that means. I mean, it sounds very hippy dippy. I don't know. Save me, I'm drowning, Father. I don't know what you think.
No, I know what you mean. I mean, we just want to do what God wants, right? So, so I guess that's the thing, and it's, you know, that's where I'm at, basically, is that we all have to stand before God, and we're judged on what we do with what we've been given. And we have an internet, right, which is a double-edged sword, because now we're accountable for doing what we have to do.
Yeah. All that access is not. Yeah, it's funny because like it all goes back to Genesis and the seeking of knowledge and stuff, and now we have it. I guess in a base form, and all it does is just makes things worse. I don't know. Like this gets a little into weeds, but from what I understand, like when Adam and Eve, when they were first created, that they were very childlike, or I guess, or they had a childlike innocence until
certainly the innocence, sure.
Until the apple or whatever. But it's like. It's I don't know. I don't even know where I was going with that.
Well, they already had the knowledge of good, so the serpent kind of tricked them with that apple, or might not have been an apple. It's just fruit of some form. Yeah. Everybody depicts it as an apple, but the thing is that they already had a knowledge of good, and what the serpent tricked them is, well, God doesn't want you to have that because you'll have the knowledge of good and evil, right? Yeah. You'll be like God,
and they're like, "What's evil? I wonder what that is."
Right.
It's not like.
Course, unreal. Well, but that's the same question people have today. Like they think evil or good or some sort of I don't know. It's sort of like a
cosplay.
Yeah, or like a Taoist kind of yin and yang. Like there are actually a lot of people that even believe that good only exists because there's an evil opposite, right? And that's not true. Evil's like a defilement. It's like iron exists whether rust exists or not, right? Rust is a defilement of the iron. So it's maybe
it's like darkness is the absence of light, right? It's
there
like
you go.
Right.
There you go. There's not like a dark force. It's not like you open up a box and there's dark in there and it drowns out the light. It's an absence of light. So absolutely.
Which is hilarious because the scientists keep trying to sell us on dark energy and dark light and all this stuff. I don't know if you've been following that, and I'm just like, I don't buy it. I don't know. But again, that's
I have a feeling our whole universe is very different than what it's kind of funny.
Told.
Yeah, well, I remember I saw this article, and you guys can, and there was a YouTube article on it, or a YouTube video on it. Like they were talking about in the 1800s, it was the theory in physics that there was ether, and that thing's circling around again. So now that because the Voyager spacecraft went out there and it ran into something, now you've got these physicists pondering that, well, maybe we weren't wrong back then. So it's kind of funny that you can't really keep up, spin the wheel, and as much the more we learn, the greater the mystery is in a lot of respects. I think there was there's certain generations that that believe that science would eventually solve all our problems, and no, they make the problems more complex. Not I'm not anti-science at all. I'm just saying it's not going to be.
It's not the end all. No.
Ask everybody who lived through the 2020s, right? So exactly.
Amen. That's right. That's right.
So do we have comments today?
Oh yeah. What? Yeah. We'll actually start. We'll start them up. Let me see. Our Father Haygood said early on. First off, hi Father Haygood. He says, I'm ready for this week's episode. I tuned in early just to make sure, and we weren't late today, were we? We started.
Well, I'm pretty sure I saw Father. Yeah, I think it's one of our rare times we started on time. I'm pretty sure I saw Monsignor Haygood there on Twitter dealing with some of the stuff we're talking about tonight, if I'm not mistaken. So there was some kerfuffle, and certainly Twitter's been a wild west the last week, and a lot of people get a little hot under the collar.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that I'm so glad I'm kind of like out of it. But Father Egan said before he arrives, go Dale.
How you doing, Norm? Welcome.
Good to see you, Norm. Always good to see you.
It's gonna be funny if Dale isn't on here yet because he got beat to it. Got beat to the punch. Yeah.
Norm, welcome as always. And then here goes Go Team, including Father Haygood, Archbishop Haygood.
Yes.
Same to you all. Go Team and go Norm, man. Right. We don't hear Go Norm often.
How about you guys? Norm and Dale and Monsignor. So have you guys been dipping your toe in the Twitter water, or have you experienced in your various communities either friends or network members, family that are like very supportive or very anti the society since these excommunications? Does anybody have a story they want to share there?
Yeah, I wonder. White Wolf, how you doing? He
Oh,
says, Our
White
Lady
Wolf.
of Fatima, pray
Yeah,
for us.
absolutely.
I know him.
Absolutely.
I met him recently.
You met him in
I
real
met
life?
him, yeah.
Really?
I think so, right, White Wolf? Or am I think I'm confusing him with someone else. I thought
I didn't think he was in Florida.
Okay.
But maybe. Well, he'll tell you, I'm sure, that you said that.
Yeah. Can you clarify? Yeah.
But anyway, unless there's fake White Wolves out there.
Right. It's like, I don't know who this dude is.
But no, but I mean, it's true. I mean, Fatima really challenges. I think White Wolf would agree with us. The modernists really hate Fatima. Like they seem to be trying to degrade it. There was a local church in town. I had a cross pollinator, I call them. They're people that go to Nova Sordo and then occasionally visit us. And I had someone come in and say, "Hey, Father Meikle, my pastor told me that what you're going on about Fatima is all a bit silly because Fatima is already fulfilled because of John Paul II's assassination attempt." So that, the people are getting all kinds of stuff. And I think, actually, I don't think I ever told White Wolf this, that the prayer that St. Michael taught the children before the apparitions, I use as sort of like a little before I ring the bell and start the mass. I pray that little antiphon aloud at the back of the chapel because it's just such a beautiful prayer that St. Michael taught the Fatima children to basically pray for those who don't adore and hope in God. And it's a little custom that I've adopted because it's just so beautiful. But Fatima is a rebuke to Cardinal Tuccio and a number of others that say there's no hell or that hell is empty, because our Blessed Mother took the seers of Fatima and she showed them that the people were falling like embers. So it's a very important part of the church history. And although, technically sometimes I get people say, well, you don't have to believe in Fatima, it's private revelation. Well, I mean, you don't have to read, a love letter from your spouse or from, a nice, some mail from your parent or child or whoever's close to you either. I mean, but who among us, if we love that special person in our life, just throws out the mail unopened, right? So it's the same way, like when the church approves an apparition, especially the pre-60 church approves an apparition, then for you just to dismiss it on your own whim, especially when we're in a time of unprecedented. I mean, we make Arius. It's like we say to the heretic Arius, "Hold my beer," right? Like it's like this world has gone completely mad, and it uses all the trappings of Christianity, like the church is still decorated and Stations of the Cross and corpuses on the cross, the crucifix on the over the altar, and well, in most cases, I once there was a Catholic church up in Edmonton that had the book The Secret, a reproduction, replaced the crucifix in one of those churches, but they're a little crazy. But anyway, no, but the what I'm getting at is that they have the trappings of the faith, but there's no hatred of sin. There's no commitment to the sacrament of confession. There's no real belief in the real presence. And I'm not saying that there aren't people that do have those things. They are, but they're a real minority. And this has been surveyed and studied at length. And so what's happened is I'll never forget, maybe some of you guys had this experience too, and Norm would have some insight on this. Like, sometimes you're naive about stuff or you make assumptions and then you realize, well, that was a stupid assumption, right? Yeah. But I always believed that if someone said they were Catholic, then that meant, they believed in the Catholic faith, or if they were maybe not a good Catholic, maybe they didn't, follow all the rules, but at least they understood the authority and all this. And the same way with Jewish folks, I always figured that they believed basically in the Old Testament. And then I years ago, before I studied it, I didn't understand, how the Talmud worked with the Old, all that kind of stuff. But anyway, what I'm getting at is it was a real surprise to, I don't know how old I was. I guess I was 24-year-old me or something, to learn that so many people self-identified as Jewish who don't even believe in God. And then the same thing goes with Catholics, that there's a pile of people that will identify by the tribe, not by the faith. So they'll say, oh, I'm Catholic. I'm Catholic. I went to Catholic school and I have Catholic guilt. But they don't believe in anything your faith teaches. And so that is something that Catholicism shares with Judaism, is that the culture itself is a force that runs alongside the theology of it. So it's kind of bizarre when you think about it. Like to think that you could say that you're a part of a religion and you don't even believe in its deity is just, it's a non sequitur to me, but apparently there's a lot to do.
Well, it was like that nun that you told me about. Is why aren't you praying to the Mother Goddess?
Yeah, I mean that was nuts. Sister Simone, God love her, she has to be passed away by now because she was, God love her, she looked like she was coming out of the crypt 30 years ago.
Yeah, it just reminds me of the goth girls in Catholic high school when I went. The goth girls that didn't believe and all that stuff. But it's just like it's like the goth girls ended up becoming nuns, but didn't lose the goth girl. Like they kept that and stayed nuns. And
I guess the problem is, it used to be. I remember reading this old manual. It was written like in the 40s or the 50s about religious life. And it was such a neat book because it was a book of all the different religious orders, like the main ones, right? And it was just kind of neat because I was just exploring all this pre-1960 Catholicism and, was just lapping it all up. And but one of the chapters in the book was scolding people that were looking to religious life because they perceive that it might be easy for them, right? And that they have to be there because God calls them, not because they are trying to game the system. And I can't help but, if you're praying to the goddess, you're probably not called a religious life, right? Well,
right.
I mean,
well, not
I
that
would say
life.
with as much certainty as a human can without the mind of God that you're not. So it's just very sad. And unfortunately, these people go on and that, you realize her role was she was evaluating seminarians, guys, right? So, and I had a good seminary. I was a Novus Ordo seminary. I had the modernism during the day, and I had traditional priests at night. And basically in their living room, they would teach us. And then, so at least the modernism, the topics gave us the framework to talk to the older priests at night about.
So, Father, I was going to say, Father Malachi Martin, he talked about on the Art Bell interview specifically how there was right after Vatican II, one of the results, like there was some sort of like they went to like nunneries and with psychologists and stuff to evaluate the nuns, and then basically shut down these schools, and these nuns just kind of stopped being nuns. You know what I mean? And
they were into high heels and necklaces and all this they all went crazy. That whole 60s, like what, the only thing that's close to it, like, okay, I'm open to fact checking here. Some of you might be better at history than me, but the only thing that comes to mind that is as crazy as what happened to the church in Vatican II is the Dutch tulip crisis in the 1500s, where you had basically an entire nation have a psychological disease. They all believed like the crocus and tulip bulbs were worth more than their houses. They were basically selling their children for these bulbs, and it was just complete and utter madness. And that's what I see some Novus Ordo about. Like I don't understand. And again, you guys can disagree with me, and by all means, if you do, like, put it in the comments so we can banter a little bit. But I just don't understand how you can be conservative anthropologically or politically and be part of any major mainstream Christian outfit, because they've all gone nuts, right? It's like, what your values are. And, Aristotle wasn't Christian. He lived before the gospel, but he shares a conservative Catholic or traditional Catholic's values in most cases, right? He shares natural law virtue. And, but these modernists, they don't. It's all hedonism. And and then they say, oh, well, the Spirit tells me and my conscience says that this is okay. No, you're a hedonist. I mean, it's not, it doesn't mean you will always be so. I mean, that's what confession's for and whatever. But it's just like, how can you accept the gospel into your heart if you keep pushing God out and accepting the pleasures and the temptations and the absurdity of the enemy
and justifying it on top of that?
So I don't understand. And then you've got like I told the story like at least twice over the 2 years that we've been doing this, Felix. But there was a local police officer that during the BLM business had his priest come up in front of his family and basically say, cops shouldn't receive communion and all this kind of stuff because you're all basically evil and unjust and all this. And it was ridiculous. These guys risk their lives every day to protect people like you and me. And I'm not saying that every cop's good. It's not. No. I maybe some of you, I get a kick, Felix. There's some of these YouTube videos on both sides. Like they'll like the bad cops, what they like, and when they're bad, they're negligent. They're not. Most of them aren't. There, every once in a while, you do see a video of someone who's really abusive, but most of it is just they don't know what they don't know, and then you got some smart aleck quoting the law, right? And it's kind of fun to watch,
right?
But it is interesting, just how. I'm sorry for the rabbit hole, but I'm just going to finish my thought.
No, let's do it.
I was saying someone the other day, we waste so much time in the public education system. They teach such stupidity that people will never use.
That's
and
right.
Yet they don't teach them how to properly talk to police, or what their rights are, or how to balance what basic financial statements and all this kind of stuff that would actually be useful for you to be a functioning human being, like for you to know how to speak to a police officer and how to be respectful, but also assertive in your rights. That is, why aren't they teaching people this stuff? Because there was a case, the video I saw, and it was interesting. They did it. They showed the body cam, and then they did a debrief, like legally, of what the cop did. And they sort of gave him a score. Like, he got a B+ here. He missed, this kind of stuff. I thought it was kind of neat. But
that's kind of cool.
But it was because actually the cops were excellent here. They really were. But you could, if you want to nitpick, it's easy. It's easy when you're from your armchair, and you're not in it. But basically, there was a case under Texas law that this woman and her boyfriend were going to go on a trip overseas, and he took, she was annoying him, and she was publicly embarrassing him because she was kind of like, making a scene. And he just said, "Leave me alone. I'm putting my earphones in. And then when we get to Madrid, I'm dumping you." Well, that was the worst thing he could have said, because she went nuts, and she started, hugging him and grabbing his arm and all this kind of stuff. And he said a couple times, "Just leave me alone. I want to listen to my music. We'll talk when we get where we're going." But under Texas law, you can't, any unwanted touch is an assault. And so even though the couple themselves, they didn't perceive there was any physical violence or anything like that, all it needed was 2 witnesses, and there was a mandatory arrest. And it's just like, they don't teach stuff like this in school, right? Like, I mean, it's, and then God love her, because she was just, before they arrested her, they're talking to her like, "I'm talking to you." And of course, she doesn't know her rights, and she's just self-incriminating. And it's just like, lady, shut up. Like, especially if your boyfriend isn't upset at you other than you were annoying, just shut up. Instead, she basically confessed to everything, and it was just like, oh man. But hopefully the judge just threw it out. But it was just a little spat, and no one got hurt other than people being irritated. But but still, I mean, it's sorry for the rabbit hole, but it just sort of strikes me that even church law is kind of like that. Like, people don't know what their rights are. Speaking of the SSPX, like that I said it in my monologue there, we have a right to the old faith. Okay. You have a right to the old faith. You don't, "Oh, Bishop, please let me have a TLM in the garage." No. "Well, please, Bishop, let me have, we got upgraded. We get to go to the gym." No, you have a right. This is your birthright. This is your baptismal right. So you assert it. You tell these turkeys, "I'm not one more cent to restore the mass of my ancestors." And none of this threatening, "You're going to do this and that to us," just because you guys are, and by all means, pledge obedience to your local bishop. If that's where you're at, do it. Yeah, but, and if you'll, but I say to people, like, okay, and I got someone I like very much. I got them upset on Twitter. I didn't mean to, but I got them upset because I said, you guys are in the Novus Ordo, and you don't believe in what your bishop's teaching you, and you're just going up and you're receiving communion and doing all this kind of stuff, and you believe you know more than him. Well, listen, you write a letter and you say, "I do not accept this aspect of Vatican II, where they say all religions are basically equal. I don't accept that. I don't accept an empty hell, like Cardinal Fernandez teaches. I don't accept that same gender copulation is Eucharistic, like Cardinal Ratcliffe teaches. I don't accept this. I don't accept all the innovations. These are not Catholic." And see what happens, because you know what's going to happen, and this is why people won't do it, and that's why the person was mad at me. It's like, because he didn't come out and say that he knew that the bishop would come back and say, "Stop receiving communion at my church."
Right.
That's what he's going to do, and they know it. And they're mad at me because I'm telling them they got to write the letter. But you don't have the authority. This isn't every Catholic ecclesiology is everything is under the bishop, right? So the thing is that it's the priests are, the religious communities that work there are, all lay people are. You don't get to pick and choose. How is that any different from the liberals that do it? So
Right.
so what you can do is you can insist that he's Catholic, and then if not, then basically if he's ordering you to sin de facto by not holding the Catholic faith, then you are free to go to one of these irregular groups, right? And so if you have any scruple or whatever, then, if you can't be Catholic under your own bishop, then that tells you that's your release. That's your release. So, but if you never write the letter, then you're taking that authority on yourself. And so I did get some people angry at me for it, and I'm sorry that they're upset, but it's like, is it not Catholic teaching you have to be subject to your bishop?
Right.
And so they have no answer because they know it's true, right? Like, doing the right thing is hard, but don't you realize if a couple thousand people did that, the chancery would say, holy crap, these guys are actually well read. These guys are actually, they know what their rights are, and they're a force to be reckoned with, and we better start attending to their pastoral needs. So that's why I say, I mean, it's, evil flourishes where good men and women do nothing, folks. Okay. And if you just quietly think that, communion in the hand and altar girls are wrong, but I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. No. Where was your letter? Did you write your bishop and tell him altar girls are wrong? Why do you permit this, Your Excellency? Communion in the hand is wrong. Under what authority in Vatican II even does it give us this authority? It doesn't. So, and then of course you're going to be a troublemaker and they'll tell you to go away. I mean, I know people don't want to hear it, but we have to face God. And if you face God and you didn't say anything in the face of the evil, then that is a decision that you make, and then you carry to him. All right. I'm not judging you. I've got to face God with my own decisions that may or may not be pleasing to him, but so do you. And that's all I'm trying to underline is every single Catholic group in the 21st century has its risk. And to me, the parable of the talents just sort of smacks you in the head, right? It's like, man, you do not want to be the servant that buries your talent in the soil up for safety, and you didn't bear fruit. And part of the fruit is for you to witness to the real, true, and good, and you have to take the consequence. And sometimes the good guys are going to be persecuted, but you know what? That tells you something, doesn't it? It tells you who's of God and who isn't.
That's right. Now, Father, I'm going to read a couple of comments, and then my dog is dragging me outside. I think she has to go outside. So I have to excuse myself for a second. I'm very sorry. I took her before the show. And anyway, Father Higgins says, I'm juridically irregular bishop too. Right. And then he says, amen, I agree with that definition. 20 ecumenical councils, all things de fide. I really believe that is the way forward. And I will be right back, Father. Excuse me.
Yeah,
everybody.
That to me is the biggest tent that makes sense. And I used to add to Monsignor. I used to say, now see, my Sede friends get mad at me, but then I explain myself when they sort of go, I guess, but I said that I give Vatican II the assent that it's due, but that's mercifully not much. There's no doctrinal pronouncements in Vatican II. So what's happened is that they've turned Vatican II into kind of a super council, but it wasn't even a dogmatic council. Not really. I mean, depending on who you talk to and who you read, there's debate on that. But I consider it a pastoral council, and my understanding is even John the 23rd said it was, and blah blah blah. There's no doctrinal. There's not, if you don't believe blah blah blah, anathema sit. There's no doctrinal pronouncement like that. It was all meant to be very welcoming. And the main issue with Vatican II, it's true. Like, so this is the conservative. So for those of you who don't know or haven't, maybe you're just watching this and you're not Catholic or you're a new Catholic, there's kind of like different types of Catholic, different families of Catholic. There's the traditionals, and they come in various subvariants. And then there's conservatives, and then there's the liberals. And so your traditionals come in Sede and non-Sedes, and the Sedes believe that there hasn't been a valid pope for some time, most of them since 1958. And then the non-Sedes that are traditional prefer the old mass and the old faith. And then there's sort of semi-trads. Those are people that are modernists they're basically liberal in terms of their theology, but they like the music and the smells and bells and the solemnity of a traditional mass. So you call them sort of semi-trad. And then there's the liberals, and the liberals are basically everything's just what the Spirit tells you. So so Catholicism is not a homogenous group any more than, you know, Jewish or Lutheran, or all these groups have their liberals and their conservatives and their traditionalists. And it's interesting to watch some that go forward. But if you've used the 20 doctrinal councils as your definition, a common definition of what is Catholic, that seems that takes in the Sedes, it takes in the trads, it takes in the semi-trads, it takes in the conservatives. And so the thing is that what I propose, and I don't imagine any other bishop would watch this because we're not a professional outfit, certainly not as a podcast, but what I proposed, is that instead of, like, there's these groups that are trying to run these little conclaves and stuff, you're just going to end up with another Pope Michael. Like, it's not, I mean, I understand why people want to do it. I don't mean any disrespect to the people that are involved. I just don't think that's the way God wants. I think that if you had a 10-year, you announced it, this was going to be a 10-year program or a 15-year program or something like that. You announce it. It's a long-term thing. And then the bishops that accept the 20 doctrinal councils without any exclusion of any group, as long as they can say that, excluding all innovation contrary, then they should get a seat at the table. And then what happens is that you could have these. We could even use the old schemas from what the Second Vatican Council was supposed to be before it got hijacked, and then go through all of it and address all of the errors of modernity, and have these public papers basically, and then it would be de facto peer reviewed. Everybody would, all the lay people that are smart about this stuff could weigh into. We could, I don't know what you'd use, maybe a Discord server or something, but there would be a scholarly debate and steelman our arguments. And the idea was that the document was intended, it would take 10 years to finish, right? And why would I say 10 years? Okay. Why I propose a 10-year or 15-year process is because for an imperfect council, and maybe just even to build the network, so that if our Lord intervenes extraordinarily, a network is built of faithful, right? And so the thing is that over that 10 years, everybody that supports those 20 ecumenical councils in de fide, excluding all innovation contrary, there would be strong networks built, right, amongst one another. We'd all know who, would all get to know one another, because part of the problem is there are very few people. It's like Fulton Sheen said, and I know not all of you like Fulton Sheen, but he said this is a wise thing he said. He said, there are very few people on earth that hate the Catholic Church, but there are millions of people who hate what they think the Catholic Church is. And what I've found is that some of the various groups, some of the hostility and some of the friction between the various groups, people are fighting and disliking one another over stuff that's just made up. It's not even true. So we let our yes be yes and our no be no. The devil is sowing all this discord. Let us, if someone says something bad about Bishop Haygood, for example, okay, or he hears someone say something bad about me, the first thing we should be doing is DMing or emailing or calling and just saying, hey, I heard this. What's the story? And maybe there's a little bit of truth in it, but it's something he fixed or something I fixed, right? So maybe there is something weird, or maybe it's complete BS. So sometimes there's crazy people. Religion attracts crazy people. Now, I can't speak for Monsignor, but I'm a little eccentric, more than a little, but I'm certainly not wee hee hee ha ha nuts. And unfortunately, the business and the community and the operation of religion attracts the best and also some fringe characters, amongst the humans. And you get some crazy people from time to time, and I've run into a few. I'm sure Monsignor's run into a few. Most of you watching have run into a few. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. Now, I don't have a Felix here, so if you bear with me, what I'm going to look like I'm doing is I'm going to look like I'm going to the side here. That's because my screen, I have a screen that I can see the comments that Felix puts up in front of me. But in order for me to select the comments, I got to look to the side. So just 1 second. There's a little widget here that says, I'm sorry, I'm not that technical, comments. And I think I can press a button and it pops up the comments. Open a new window. There you go. And then I can just pull this over to my side screen and I can see what you guys are doing. All right. There we go. Then I can fix this on my screen. See, not a professional outfit, guys. So thank you for being so understanding. All right. One more button. There we go. Okay. And let's see where we got. Where do we got? All right. Now, why is this not? Oh, White Wolf had a comment here and it disappeared. Okay, here we go. Sorry, White Wolf. I'm a technical idiot here. So Pius XII was responsible for the revolutionary nuns with his encyclical Sponsa Christi. The nun crisis predated Vatican II. Yeah, you know what, White Wolf. So White Wolf raises a really interesting point. So every once in a while, you run across people that say, "Oh, if we can only go back to 1950, the world would be so much better." The fact of the matter is, there was trouble pre-1965, right? So the reason why Vatican II took hold is in part because there were real crises to address, and unfortunately, people threw the baby out with the bathwater, and the whole nun thing went a little nuts, and I'm sure feminism was a big part of it, and it was ridiculous. I remember nuns in the seminary. There was one nun. There was like, I don't know how many nuns there were like 12, but there was like one nun who wore her habit, and they all made fun of her, and then the rest of them were all in high heels and dressing like they were looking for a husband, and it's just a non sequitur, right? But that was in the day. Liberal priests used to wear shirt and tie, and I used to be so insulted as a seminarian at that, but now I appreciate it. I'll tell you why, because at least the liberals were easy to spot, and they were kind of honest. They were more honest, and right now, I mean, the liberals all wear, the nuns even took their habits. Even the liberal nuns wear habits now. But for a while, you'd never see a liberal nun in a habit. And they realize that there's power in a uniform, right? So any military person can tell you that. But it works for clergy too. And also what kind of uniform, right? So locally in the Tampa Bay area, I had a priest friend who was a diocesan indult priest for the mass there at Epiphany. And it was funny. Whenever I go to the hospital, they'd say, "Oh, you must work with this priest," and they'd say the same thing to him. And it was kind of funny because we were the only two that were wearing Roman Catholic as street dress, which it's an interesting story, a story for another night. But the Council of Baltimore discouraged Catholic priests in America from wearing clerical clothing that differed from the Protestant brothers. It was a long story with the Council of Baltimore, which we're not going to get into tonight unless you guys really want to get into it tonight. But that's worthy or something else.
I'm back, Father, by the way.
You did charge that. I was just finished. I was agreeing with White Wolf, and I was just underlining that in addition to the problem with the nuns, this whole fixation that 1950 was out issue is also not helpful to the restoration, okay? We won't disagree that 1950, a lot of things were better than now, but I'm just saying, like, it's not as simple as us rolling back a clock. It's complicated. And I would say my big thing, guys, is that we have to be like there's a couple parables. I bet you're all the same. Okay. Those of you who read the scripture, you're probably exactly the same. There's certain little stories and vignettes from the scripture that keep coming back to you. And one of them that keeps coming back to me is let your yes be yes and your no be no. So and Felix can tell you, I tell my flock all the time, not even one white lie. You have to be a person of truth, not even one white lie. Someone says to you, does this dress make me look fat? You have two choices. You can say yes and get them deal with the tears, or you can say, that's an interesting choice. What made you choose that? You see what I did there? Right. So you have to be a person of truth, because if you're not a person of truth, and if white lies are not a regular part of your examination of conscience, then I would just suggest that that's something you really want to handle, because I would say 90% of the problem with the trad civil war is dishonesties and a detraction and calumny, which is listen, of course we're going to have differences. And you know what? The way men should fight, you holler at one another and then you shake hands and you have a beer afterwards. That's the way it's supposed to be. If necessary, you give each other a smack in the head. Then it's over. All right. But this business of being nice, like I get this local, oh, what a weasel. There's this fun, oh, Bishop Meikle, he's kissing my butt, and then behind my back, it's all this stuff. And it's like, you do realize that, we share a lot of mutual acquaintances, right? And so this stuff gets back. And if it came back from one person, I just think you're stirring the pot. But if 3 people say, hey, so Father so-and-so said X, Y, Z, it's like, dude, say you hate my guts. Don't pretend you like me. And that's part of the problem. It's the mentality, right? It's the mentality. We have to be people of truth. It's better for you to have an honest disagreement with one another, right? Because some stuff only God's going to sort out. There's some things we just can't know. We can't know. Or if we do, not with the certainty that we think everybody else should have, right? So, I mean, there has to be a certain humility. And that even goes for clergy. And that goes for me too, right? Like, I mean, I go on about, people submit to their bishop. But Felix can tell you, and you can ask any one of my priests, I don't lord it over these guys, right? They're my brothers. I'm their father as well, right? When I have to be. Both in the good and the bad, in the sense of being a source of encouragement and mentorship, but also correction sometimes. And these guys, I'm really blessed, because I'll tell you, I mean, I've worked for, I don't know how many dioceses, probably 4 or 5 dioceses in my time, including Novus Ordo. And every diocese was the same. Like, there were the priests, they were all divided. There were some wacky liberal, there were some mildly liberal, there were centrists, there were trads, there were conservatives, but the thing is, everybody was angry at one another. There were all these cliques, and what I've really been blessed, and it's a big weight off, right? All of my clergy hold the same faith, and we've got one of our clergy is a lot more Sedevacantist leaning than, say, I would be, so, but I mean, the thing is, it doesn't matter, because that's not our focus is on getting people those basic building blocks necessary for them to get into heaven, to build a spiritual life, morning offering, evening examen, 30 minutes mental prayer a day, these basic staples, the Holy Rosary, reading some sort of spiritual work, the Lives of the Saints, or a manual on prayer, such as Introduction to the Devout Life or Imitation of Christ, and so forth. And these are just basic spiritual nutrition. Just like we have to feed the body, we have to feed the soul. And it's just like, at the end of the day, a lot of this debate about popes and whether Cardinal Supage is a lizard person or something, this is above our pay grade. I mean, really. And at the end of the day, who cares? Who cares whether Cardinal McElroy likes you? You shouldn't care. I don't care. God and your angel want to get your rump into heaven, and there's a spot waiting for you that no angel or saint can take the place of. God has such great plans for you, for your eternity. And so by all means, be aware of what's going on in the church stuff, but leave the big battles to the clergy. And by all means, some of you educated lay people can be advisors to your bishop and your priest, and we appreciate help. So like, I'll tell you where I appreciate help is when if I have a trusted lay person that I know is educated in a certain way, and I can say, hey, can I share a draft with you of a pastoral letter or a teaching document I'm working on? And then they tear it apart, and I'll say, no, this is wrong. And I have a couple people I can do that with, and they're pretty bright guys. So they're helping, but at the end of the day, they understand that it comes under my authority before God for my portion, my flock of baptized. I have to answer to God for that. But what I'm saying is there are ways that keen lay people can help their clergy even in traditional realm, right? Dr. Marshall blocked you, Archbishop Haygood?
I had to, yeah.
Okay. This is going to be like an unboxing. This is going to be revealed. I'm going to see if Dr. Marshall. I was mildly critical of him a little while back.
Oh, who was it?
I'm not his enemy, right? Like, I'm trying
who blocked me was Mike Cernovich. Mike Cernovich blocked me one.
He blocked me too. Yeah. And I was saying something positive to him, but he didn't like it. I guess it wasn't intellectual enough for him or something.
Super thin skin on that. Yeah, I was so disappointed But but yeah, it's what it is. And now it's like he kind of became irrelevant. And I don't want to say irrelevant because that's not true. He's still out there. But it's just it's funny because like you block all of your dissenting voices, no one's gonna hear you.
Well, I mean, the thing what I got a kick out of him, Felix, is that I wasn't a dissenting voice, and he still blocked me. Like I was someone that said, "Hey, I think you missed this certain element," kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he, I'm just trying
Same
to wonder.
thing.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. So I mean, and he, you're right. He has thin skin, but you know what's good? We dodged a bullet because it's not someone that I want to know in real life. Then.
Yeah. And then you know what? It's the same thing. It's I absolutely lost my point with that one. Yeah, he it was the same thing with me. It was not like because I actually bought. He had like this really good documentary about fake news and stuff, and I purchased it. So I was like a supporter, and yeah, it was a very mild critique or something like that, and he just blocked me. But I wonder what I wonder.
Yeah,
what
I got blocked. Well, I guess I'm part of the club. He blocked me too. I guess he's, God love him because he has done some good in over the years, but at the end of the day, there's a funny someone. Have you guys seen the action figure? Of they call it tailored Marshall. I gotta send it. It's funny, and actually, it's not actually that mean. So I'm going to share it because it's not that. And it is kind of really funny if I can pull it up, and I just got to figure out how to get it on my screen here for you guys. Oh, did I not? Maybe I don't have it anymore. But
he blocked you. That is hilarious.
Well, I mean, I did take him on a little bit, but I did it respectfully.
Oh, come on.
And I mean, I'm not an enemy of his, but I guess he feels that I am.
There's reasons there are reasons to block somebody, right? And
yeah, if you're disrespectful or
harassing.
I mean, there's a certain harassing for sure, but yeah, it's kind of
it's like when you can tailor your own echo chamber, pun intended. And it's I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of Taylor Marshall. Like I did watch some of his stuff. But oh shit. I'm so sorry for cursing. Oh my God, something crawled on me, Father. I'm so sorry.
Poor Felix.
It was like, oh, I'm so sorry. There was like a spider or something. I'm so sorry. Forgive me.
Okay, I gotta figure out how to do this for us here. So if I wonder now if I do this. Okay, I'm just gonna see here if I can. If I send this to you in the private chat, can you put it up somehow, Felix?
Probably. Yeah. Send it to me.
Yeah, this is kind of cute, guys. This is. I mean, and again, I see if someone did something on this that made general fun of me, I would just laugh. I would think it's kind of funny. So actually, feel like I'm going to send it in your signal if that's all right. And then,
okay.
Yeah, just fire that up. That's just easier. And yeah, so there's a way that you can put this on because I don't know how to do it. If we wait for me to figure it out, we'll be here all day. But yeah, so I guess he's blocking all the people that he considers schismatic or whatever, and that's fine. If that's what he thinks that God wants him to do. I mean, if he's in the right, if he cares about our souls, especially with Monsignor Haygood and myself as examples, okay, we aren't hostile to him. Now, that doesn't mean we agree with him on everything. But, if he's going to, like, Bishop Barron blocked Taylor Marshall a while back. I don't know if they still blocked, but
wow, that's weird.
Know, right? Like, again, I understand if I was saying something really mean.
Yeah.
Then, and sure. But, all I did was I called out a certain incongruence. Like, my main problem with him, and again, it's not one of these things. I don't think he's a bad guy. I just think he handled it poorly. Was that he made a video and it's circling Twitter. It's still out there, even though he took it down. And he said the worst possible pope would be Robert Prevost, Bob from Chicago. Robert Prevost would be the end of the church and blah, 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 blah. And Sure enough, Leo the 14th comes out on the loggia, and Taylor, the smartest thing Taylor could have done, take down the video, if that's what he wants to be regular, take down the video like he did, but then make an announcement and just say, hey, I was critical of this Robert Prevost, but after a period of time of prayer, I've decided that I'm going to give
I'll submit
the
to
office the deference, and we're going to see, we're going to judge by the fruits, as our Lord Jesus said. Pray for Robert Prevost, that he, as Leo the 14th, will be a great and holy pope. And that's all Taylor had to do. But what he did, it's not what he did. He got on, he put out this video, and he says, I submit, like day one, I submit to Leo the 14th. Dude, like, are you even sure that Benedict resigned properly? And that's even aside of all the our Sadie friends obviously figure that the defection happened a lot earlier. But it's like, okay, even if you didn't think the defection happened early, there's a couple logical points where something smells rotten in Denmark, right? Father Martin likes to stir the pot. He likes to stir the pot with our Sadie friends. He says, well, I don't think Pius XII was very good, right? So, I mean, it's kind of funny, right? Like he's just what he's trying to do is, and then people say, oh, Father Martin doesn't like Pius XII. No, that's not. Father Martin likes to stir the pot. And Father Martin is saying, why John the 23rd and not Pius XII? And he wants the banter, see? He wants the intellectual argument. And that respectfully done is useful for all, okay? So there's that. So you can go with Pius XII. There was some funny business. There was some weird changes. John the 23rd. But arguably, Paul VI. That's the big problem. And then there were some minor, like there's some stuff that, Benedict had in his past, but he looked like he was a man that might be converting to tradition. Again, there's debate on that. But I'll tell you right now, I mean, jeepers, Francis, holy mackerel, boys and girls. Francis, honestly, the minute that Francis started teaching for Catholicism, we owe all our Protestant friends an apology. Like, how do you evangelize to that? Right? Yeah. You can't. So and Francis himself would say it. He would say to people, don't convert. It's like, do you realize how many Muslims risked their lives converting?
Yeah.
And then you just say, oh, well, God loves everybody.
Right now in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Right now in Nigeria, right? They're going through it. And that's it. I don't know as a layperson, I don't know.
You don't have all the information. I mean, case in point, look at White Wolf's excellent. I'll let you read White Wolf's comment, and he's absolutely right. This is a key aspect.
So the solution is for the Pope to fulfill the requests of Our Lady of Fatima, says White Wolf. Now, can I push back on that? Only because of this.
Why not?
Yeah. To play devil's advocate, because I also believe with this point, just to be clear. But you're saying this is not how do you say, this isn't like required belief, like you're not, as a Catholic, you don't have to believe in Our Lady of Fatima?
Well,
or at least in that miracle?
We say that. Like, you have to have what that's basically saying. All right. I think this is often misunderstood. Like again, Felix, it's like the example I used. If your mother sends you a letter, my beloved son, and you don't even read it, you just basically throw it in the trash or let the dog crap on it. Okay. That's very much disrespect to your mother. So this notion of people saying, I don't have to read it, I don't have to believe in it because it's not in the Bible. I mean, that's a very slippery slope. But the reason why the church teaches that is because what it's saying is that everything required for salvation has come through divine revelation and public revelation. The period closed, and in the capital T tradition of the church and in the scriptures, everything we need for salvation is in those things. So technically that's true, but like I say, if it's an approved, especially pre-1960 approved apparition, I think you're being very disrespectful to have that attitude. I don't have to believe in it. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like Jonah knocks at the door, right? In Nineveh, and the people can choose. And for whatever reasons, there's lots of theories. A lot of them have to do with the geopolitical. They didn't want to upset the Russians and cause a communist persecution to Christians and blah, blah, blah. All these different theories, whatever. Whatever the actual reason, John the 23rd and subsequent did not properly reveal the secrets. And I can tell you that 100% because my spiritual director and mentor, and the reason why I'm with the Sia Kirglau, worked in the Vatican, and he told me as a seminarian, basically, he knew somebody who read The Secret. And so it's anecdotal, but it aligns with everything that you guys have already read. And that basically is, it had to do with basically there would be an apostasy at the top, and it would involve a bad mass and a bad following doctrine, right? And that many bishops would betray, and that the attack was going to be from within. And so, of course, the church suppressed this information. But anecdotally, it's spread. If you know any priest that works in Rome that's conservative or traditional, they have a similar story. It's out there, right? So
Malachi Martin said the same thing to Art Bell. He, without saying it, because he couldn't say what it was, but he kind of let Art Bell guess it in a way, and then he'd be like, he was like, yes, no, yes, no, you know, it was interesting.
So the thing is that, but here's what I would. It's funny, you have a little pushback for White Wolf. I do too, in a way. It was just a question. It's not really a pushback. It's like,
no, yeah, right,
you know,
exactly.
No, but what I'm getting at is, like, okay, so, and White Wolf and I might disagree on this. I'm not sure that Benedict resigned properly. Like, that for me, that has never been cleared up. And as much as people scream, oh, he's got universal acceptance, Francis universal, but he doesn't. He didn't. There was a whole, if you took the percentage of actual traditional bishops on the planet, he didn't have universal acceptance at all from those who call themselves traditional. So the thing is, you know, so you guys are small and unimportant, and you know, there's probably only 40 of you in the world, and who cares? Well, still, you say universal acceptance, right? I mean, I don't know. This is a big can of whoop I don't want to get into today. You could spend like 3 years arguing, but all I'm getting at is, this is my thing. I agree with White Wolf that I agree with him. That's what should have been done. My concern is that at least after Benedict, I'm not sure it matters now. I'm not sure that we have a functioning. So Leo might be validly Pope, but he might be impeded in his office in a number of ways. And so again, this is above my pay grade. All I can say is I don't have confidence. I do not have confidence that Leo or Francis Bergoglio guards the deposit of faith. And you guys can disagree with me. I'm not infallible. I'm just saying, when I look at the data, and if you guys want, okay, there's a website called, and maybe Felix can put it in the comments if you can look it up, Felix, or I'll put it in your signal so you can share it with everybody. I want you guys to check this out. This was done by a bunch of pro-Vatican II Spanish priests. Okay. Now, the reason why I mentioned that is that they don't have an axe to grind like maybe someone like me would, right? They want to be Novus Ordo, but even they couldn't handle it. So there's a website right here that I'm going to have Felix put in the comments and display it. And if you go there, there's a PDF, and it'll give you all the references, including Vatican II references. See, I wouldn't give you that because I don't quote Vatican II for anything other than to say, crap, they changed something. So, but if you check that out, even if you're pro-Vatican II, this is going to be a real eye-opener for you, okay? These are loyal priests in communion with Leo. Most of them probably. I'm sure maybe one or two of them got fired in the interim. But my point is that if they say this, then you can understand why the Sedes and people like me say what we do. So I want, we're about the real, true, and good here, and it doesn't help us to put our head in the sand and not address real problems. Like, I would say the 99% of the stuff, the flack I get online is due to misunderstandings or people attributing to me things I don't believe, or not asking me, hey, Meikle, I heard you said this. Why do you say that? And I'm generally happy if I can. Although, really, I'm only on Twitter like 1 or 2 days a week. I go in spurts. If I'm in a line or I'm in a car, I might tweet. But I used to be on every day. And sometimes I schedule stuff ahead. So if you see, oh, isn't he online tonight? No, not really. That's my schedule. My scheduling thing tweeted for me. No, but anyway, yeah. So did you get that, Felix?
Actually, yeah, because I'm doing it right now as we speak.
Yeah. So we can go to another comment then while you get the Taylor art and the Denzinger working.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. All right. Yeah. Let me go to the next comment. Sorry, as a historian. Father Hager says, as a historian, I would love to be part of that episode. Ooh, I think we were talking about this about an hour ago.
So this is always a problem when we don't know what the comments was referred to. Was he never last night? See, that's an issue too. So this is something he's going to have to, like. I mean, I would just say to him as a brother priest and brother baptized, right? Like, dude, you got to get this stuff sorted out, right? Like, because the thing is that when you're called to the priesthood of Jesus Christ, you take upon a yoke that, he made a lot of money with his various institutes and his media stuff, and that's fine. But again, if he's, and a technically a diocesan priest, I mean, it's not like you have a vow of poverty, but that there is a problem with being a priest and charging for things of the faith. In fact, maybe Monsignor Haygood has the same issue as I do. On one hand, you have to raise money for your apostolate. On the other hand, you can't sell stuff about the faith. So it's like, okay, what's technically, I to this day do not have any way you guys can donate to me. It's funny, hilarious. I get teased at for some of my priest friends too, because it's like I have these little blue envelopes my parishioners use. I don't take a regular salary. And God has been very generous. I've kept a couple out-of-state benefactors that they visited one time, and there are people of means, and they say, "Hey, you know what? This guy's doing the work." So they've been contributors, but they're not even parishioners. So I appreciate that. And at some point, I'll put a donation link or something. I did do fundraising for the seminary roof. That's the only online fundraising I ever have done in 10 years. And but it's funny because now I'm getting younger people are all like, Father, I don't carry cash. I just use electronic stuff, and even for collection basket stuff. So I'm gonna have to. I think the second day I met Felix, he wanted me to have some electronic thing. Okay, yeah. So can you blow that up, Felix? Can you make it large? So
kind of, sort of.
This is kind of cute. So it's Taylor Marshall, and you see the different hats. So all the different trad groups. And then
infiltration. What infiltration? Yeah. Dark Horse Provost. I submit to Leo. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Collect all the additions. Just snap on the latest position and you're ready to comment. Oh man. Oh, that's yeah. That's actually pretty great.
Yeah, but it's it's kind of neat. But there you go. I guess that's how he rolls.
Oh, I like this comment. White Wolf says Taylor Marshall is a CIA shill and a deep church operative. To be able to flip-flop like that.
Well, it's hard to disagree with White Wolf's hypothesis in some respects, right? Like, it just the total flip, though. Like, if he is White Wolf, he's only recently maybe been let into the tent, because he wouldn't have said all those things about Robert Prevost
right
before the election so that he could be now. He just needs to be on what do they call that? It's not the day. Is it the Daily Wire? What's Ben Shapiro's outfit? Where did Matt Fradd end up?
Daily Wire.
Daily Wire.
Oh yeah. Daily Wire.
Watch Taylor Marshall will be on there too. That'll be great.
Wait, I think actually. Oh no, that is Matt Fradd, right? Yeah. That's what's confusing. Yeah. He ended up there.
Yeah. So again, I mean, I tease these guys. I mean, I don't hate them, and they can tease me too. Like, I make fun of myself, but the thing is that case in point, like the folks like Matt Fradd reportedly is like, they'll go to a Byzantine church, but then tell all the Novus Ordo to put up with it. Right? So it's like, well, first of all, are you Byzantine? Are you
right?
Is your wife? Are you one of your parents? Like, if there's some connection, by all means. But I mean, you can't just change rights willy-nilly either, right? So it's but anyway, we're all just trying to make it to heaven.
All right, and
good evening. Yeah,
good evening.
So anybody else on the chat that has been Adoramus Himel? That's a good one. So has anybody else in the chat also been blocked by Taylor Marshall?
I know I'm probably blocked just because
Are you?
I probably I'll check. Yeah, let me see. But yeah, let me see. But you know what? It's like, I don't know. You've seen, I am just not on Twitter. In fact, it's asking me to sign in. That's how long it's been since I've been on Twitter.
Oh, really?
Wow. Yeah. Yes, this is my number. Taylor Marshall. I'm probably not blocked. I just want to be. Yeah, no, he just comes right up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, in a certain sense, well, I
not
don't
blocked. I'll try harder. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean,
I'm
I don't
kidding.
wish him any ill. It's just like I say, it's like I think he was mad because he was going on about how great Cardinal Burke was, how great an honor it was to be someone to be ordained by Cardinal Burke. And it's like, oh, Cardinal Burke. You know, again, somebody wears a lace, says traditional mass, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's well documented. He approved a canonical trans. There's some mother superior out there who's really a guy, and then Burke signed off on it. So it's like, you know, and it's like, okay, listen, we all have things in our past we're not proud of, but there are things that we wouldn't do again, and therefore should be forgotten. And then there are things that give us insight to how we view the church and our authority in the church. And if you think that you can make a guy a girl or a girl a guy through the power of the episcopacy, then we've got some problems, right? Like that's not a case of, oh, he jaywalked or he sped or he was uncharitable to an unwed mother or something. I mean, these are things you can repent from. When you do things like you use your power to accept a canonical trans, that tells us what you think of human nature, what you think of the authority of the episcopacy, what you think of the limits of the authority of the church. And there are limits to the authority of the church, and some people aren't ready to accept that too. You know, the Pope has to be a steward and a servant of the deposit of faith. He cannot be its master or presume to be its master. All right.
Yeah.
So this is the problem with these guys. They just make this stuff up. And it's hilarious because I know I'm over target because then they accuse me of everything they actually do. It's kind of like a certain political party who remain nameless. They accuse their opponents of doing the exact stuff they actually do. And then when it comes out, you know, hilarity ensues.
Yeah.
I can give you guys a big long list of my faults that are real that you guys can make fun of. That's fine. Felix can give you some too. You have my complete permission, Felix. If anybody reaches out to you offside and hey, what kind of thing does Meikle suck at, and what's he? What can I make fun of him of? Go ahead. Like, you know what? It's good for my humility, and I'll tell you, I love to be teased, or I'm happy to embrace an insult as long as you can. If you dish it, you got to be able to take it. But as long as it's true, hey, I've got tough skin, and I'd much rather an honest enemy that might be a friend one day because they're honest than a weasel that smiles to my face and backstabs me. Which unfortunately, church brings it out. It's part of the culture. It's like they don't want to say anything mean to a clergy, so they're nice to you, your face, and then. You know, and so like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, God is not going to be happy with you. He'd be far less unhappy with you if you just said, "Hey, Meikle, I think you're a clown." Well, okay, well, I mean,
yeah, right.
You know, okay. I mean, what do you say to that, right? Okay, you think I'm a clown? Well,
how dare you?
Exactly. Oh, you got to use the new one, Felix. You got to use the new one.
Oh yeah.
Okay, here, Steve, you guys like this?
Yeah, I got it. I got it.
How dare you?
I got Taylor Marshall and the nun doing it. So there you go. I don't feel so bad using Taylor. From now on, I'm going to use, since he blocked me, all in good.
It's fair game now.
It's fair game. So that's fine. But I don't know, Felix, have you seen like the last two? See, Felix and I work differently, like separately on some of the stuff. I try to make some little AI thing that's funny, if you know, and I try to put Felix in it. So did you see the one today with you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was
totally cool.
And last week too, you were in, but you were away from the screen, so I don't know if you saw last week, but you were in last week's too.
Right, I saw it in the replay, but yeah, it was cool. All right, let me see. I'm hearing an echo. I think on your end, Father.
Is it? Oh, it might be. I might have something running here.
All right, so White Wolf says the bogus ordo came out of the Masonic lodges of the 1850s. Canon Roca knew what was coming. Wow, I believe that now. And you know what? Actually, I wanted to comment on something he said about him being about Taylor Marshall being a CIA shill.
Right.
I don't know of any CIA ties because I didn't look into it. Not because I looked and found nothing. I just haven't looked yet. But I'm curious what those ties are, if that is the case, or if there's any intelligence ties, or if it's just kind of like he's just a CIA shill working for the Vatican. I don't know. I want to know what the evidence is for that. That's curious, but I believe this Masonic lodges. In fact, like even what you were just talking about with when you accept a trans as a bishop or whatever, or Mother Superior, like that. First off, that right there is the whole trans thing, and I think we've beaten this to death, but it is like a satanic principle. And it is trying to get Jay Dyer, who's Orthodox, by the way, but I'm a big fan of. But he did a really great piece on this, and was kind of described as like the thing is that people, these mystics, are trying to get to a point before we were assigned a gender in birth, right? So they think that it's a superior form that transcends gender, which first he's not condoning, obviously he's just saying this is what they believe, that you're in a more superior form because now you are both, as and it's very pagan. Again, this, but this is what they kind of believe, and when you accept someone like that's, I don't know, it's like they might as well accept someone as they put a kid into the Moloch thing, and then they'll be like, okay, well, come on in. Like it's almost the same level. I mean, obviously without a sacrifice involved, but you know what I mean.
Yep, absolutely. It's crazy times for sure. So, definitely so actually, White Wolf, I don't know if you ever, I have a Substack, and for those of you who are kind of interested, like again, it's kind of an eggheady thing. So I have a hypothesis that sort of aligns with that, but it comes from a different angle. So, the stonecutters, as we'll call them for YouTube purposes, the stonecutters come from a certain ancient religion, right? And so the thing is, there's a link between there's a and again, it's on my Substack. There's a group. There's an article called. It's 3 parts, but the first part's called "When do we start celebrating the Pasch and start celebrating the Seder," or something to that effect. Just if you Google Pasch and Seder, or like on the Substack there, you'll get the article. I'd love to know if you might have. I should even check the comments. I haven't in a while, but who knows? Maybe you've already read it. But that I'd be interested in your thoughts on that, because that's kind of, I had a bit of an epiphany on that I realized that the ancient Jews, the Orthodox, and the trad Catholics, when I say ancient Jews, I mean like pre-110 AD, that kind of thing. So the ancient Jews, trad Catholics, and the Orthodox have one idea of consecrated person, place, time, and space. And Protestants, modern Jews, and modern Catholics share the other point of view. And so it's a 3-part article. I try to make my case, and it explains the big difference in orientation and telos. But again, it's not for everybody. But White Wolf's a really bright guy, so I think he might he might not agree with it, or he might, but he might find it interesting. So White Wolf, if you haven't read it, I encourage you to do it, and maybe email me direct. I'll try to. I'm not as good, guys. Pray for me that I get better at my comments, because I think my YouTube and my Substack would grow better if I was a little bit more on top of comments, because I want to be, but it's just call
only
it
so many hours in a day,
right? So call it a poor time manager, and I mean, I have people waiting for email from me and phone calls from me. There's sometimes weeks out, and we're all busy. I mean, in fact, I would say, I blame myself for just not being that efficient. and some of it's age, and some of it's Florida. You know, I never used to take a nap before Florida, and I got to say, well, and I don't know whether it was just coincided with my, advent of middle age, but yeah. So especially in the summers, I typically need a nap, and if I don't get it, then I'm kind of useless for a little bit. So I try to do all my hardcore thinking work in the early morning. So I get up like really early, where sometimes I stay up late, but normally I try to get up really early, and I, I I just wail away, it's funny. Like today, I didn't take any break. I didn't, other than to go to the washroom and refill the coffee, and I got a nice coffee cup that it holds a pint. So I would you believe that, a nice big coffee cup, and
Nice.
and my joke is all I need is an IV bag, right? So so other than go to the washroom and to fill out the coffee a couple times in the morning, I just wailed away, and then I had 2 blinks, and it was like 8:11, and I realized, holy crap, we're on air like in less than an hour. Where did the day go? So that's how life goes right now. So I don't know. Maybe some of you are my age. I'm in my mid-50s. If maybe some of you find the same thing, or maybe you moved to Florida like I did and you find it too. But I hope I got a big pile that's finally starting to get shipped, and I hope if I get caught up, I can have a little bit better sustainable, flow, including a day that I just sit down and do comments, because it's important. It's important to answer people who have sincere questions. And so I apologize if any of you have emailed me or signaled me or, or commented on Substack and I haven't been there. I will endeavor to be better, because I do think it's important.
All right. So yeah, Sancta Service says the ether and the flogs. And again, I still hear that echo, Father. I don't know if
I must be me somewhere. Okay,
if the speaker's on, and you don't have your headphones on, you're gonna.
So how's that now?
I think that's better.
Okay.
Yeah, so far so good. Okay. Now, he says the ether and the phlogiston or the phlogiston. Funny ideas. I guess we were talking about that. And it is crazy because what ended up happening with science, and I actually got into it with someone else over this in a separate stream, is that it's not the science that you're being told. It's not even real science. It's not a scientific method. It's actually built on assumptions,
right?
And like, especially when we get to this, well, ether might actually be real. And we had this talk the other day about how, in the 90s and the 2000s, depression was a chemical imbalance. Bipolar was a chemical imbalance. Now the studies, and I say that in quotes, are saying no, that we have no clue actually what's causing depression and bipolar and schizophrenia. It's not a chemical imbalance. Well, okay. So you've been drugging people for like 3 decades with things to alter your chemicals, your brain chemicals, for a problem that wasn't really there. You know what I mean? It's like someone trying to fix a car. The problem's the radiator, and for some reason they're upset because they're changing the battery and it's not working. You know what I mean? Like the wind washer fluid, the wind wiper, you know what I'm talking about. Is the wiper fluid is full, and for some reason it's still not working. So again, it's just like there's too many assumptions from the scientific method, period. And this White Wolf, that's right. This is when he starts going up my alley here. The Voyager spacecraft never made it into space.
Well, it's interesting. Whatever's going on with it, it's doing weird things. Like if you've been keeping up on the news of it, I guess if you think it's just like in a garage somewhere sending signals, that may or may not be. But even if it is, it's reporting stuff that apparently it shouldn't be. So that whole Voyager thing is an interesting. It's an interesting story. That's actually, I touched on it earlier when I said people are starting to talk about the ether. Apparently it's flying through something soupy, but I don't know. Someone can don't quote me on it. I'm not a Voyager expert,
right?
I like the aviation side of the space program, but again, I'm not. I just want to know the real, true, and good. And if the real, true, and good is weird, then so be it.
Hey,
And,
let's get weird.
I'm open to. There was a movie, and it was there was a Catholic, trad Catholic, who was a little eccentric. His name was Wolfgang Smith. He was a friend of Malachi Martin's. He was like this genius kid. Like he had 2 PhDs by the time he was in his early 20s in physics and math. And he's the guy that did the re-entry stuff for Gemini, the spacecraft. And but he became trad Catholic. He was originally sort of like born in just before the Second Vatican Council, and then it was away from the church during that. And then when he came back very trad. And he tried to basically take the writings of the fathers of the church and the scripture and apply it to sort of a new theory of physics. And so Wolfgang Smith is the name. And if any of you are fans, like, put it in the comments, because I'm just curious if anybody else knows a little bit of his work. So I actually started in physics, like my university, but ended up, it was a long story, but ended up changing programs. And I don't regret that, but it was originally, I certainly have an admiration for good science, proper science. But the problem is that a lot of science is just made up. Like when you look at cosmology, climate science, and what's the third? There's 3 I always used to name, but there's some that don't have a lot of experimentation or repeatable experimentation. Yeah, evolution's another one. Like, I mean, there's no, like, fine, you have a theory, but the thing is that there's a lot of holes in it.
A lot of holes. And, it's anytime you mention it, they get furious.
Yeah, like, it's a religion,
you
right?
Just don't know. Yeah, you just don't know what you're talking about.
It's their religion. Yeah. I was friends with a polymath named John Cafferty. God rest his soul. What a great guy. And he was an Irish guy that ended up settling in Canada. And he and I were good friends. He wrote a book called Evolution's Hand. It's out of print. I was looking for a copy. I used to have a copy, signed copy. I was actually his theological advisor. He mentioned me in the book, which was kind of nice, but it was not a commercial success. And I knew it wasn't going to be because I love John. But my goodness, originally he actually tried to help me. He'd get my help editing it. And he says, I need to be a little more accessible, and you're a good bridge because you're scientifically, basically literate and, scientifically, and that you could make it more accessible to a wider audience and all this kind of stuff. But every time I'd suggest something, well, you can't make it any more simpler than that, and so it was like, he's not going to listen to me. So it didn't work very well. But anyway, no, but he was just a wonderful man, a very holy man. He prayed all the time, went to daily mass, great devotion to our Blessed Mother. And what converted him was science. He was a geologist, among other things. This guy, like, seriously, this guy's out of a storybook. He was a polymath. He was one of the few that I've ever truly encountered. I mean, you see some on video and stuff, but he truly was. Like, his formal education was in geology, and he was the chief geologist for a gold mine in northern Quebec. And but that wasn't just it. I mean, he was also a chemist and a physicist and an engineer. And a philosopher, and so the guy was, he was fun to visit, man. But you always felt you were taking him away. Like, his wife was always glad when I come and visit because he would enjoy bantering with me, and I think she was just glad that he would leave his work for a few moments to be social and would have a pint of Guinness, just like I'm having here. He lived, he had this beautiful house in the beaches in Toronto, which is a nice area in East York. And he had, but he lived in the basement, and it was like a bomb shelter down there. And he had this beautiful house, but he never lived in it. And they lived very simply, he and his wife. And, but anyway, he unfortunately got cancer and passed. But anyway, one of the things in Evolution's Hand is when he was a geologist, he went out, and whatever he saw, and I apologize, I can't do it justice, and unfortunately, I don't have a copy of his book. But he went out, and what he saw in the rock face, Felix, contradicted all the theories of the way the world evolved in order to produce life. And he's just like, the layers are all wrong here, and this is supposed to be impossible. And so he had nearly 1,000 guests. It was that big a deal, but it was kept under wraps. But I mean, it was like, in terms of quietly, the scuttlebutt. So people were arriving, and to visit his mine, you had to take a commercial airline to probably Quebec City or Montreal, and then you'd have to take a little puddle jumper like a bush plane to get out to this mine. And but he had nearly 1,000 visitors, he said, and everybody was looking at this rock. And to John, that was proof of God. Now, I don't know how you leap from geographical, but that was the tipping point for him. And he just realized that this had to have a creator behind it. So whatever he read in the rock. So, I wish that book was even electronic on PDF or something. But I should see if the publisher still is operative, and maybe they have a PDF or something that they could just put in public domain. But it was called Evolution's End. Actually, I think he was a best-selling author, but not for that book. He did a book on the theft of the Irish crown jewels. So if you check him up on Amazon, John Cafferty, he wrote a book on the Irish crown jewels, but he was also my friend, and he was a scientist, really. But he had this fascination with Irish history and mysteries. So, God rest his soul. And he was very supportive of my path. Like, he knew me as a Novus Ordo seminarian, and I was kind of scared of telling him that I was going irregular. And he was so supportive. I talked to him before he passed, and he just said, he says the church is facing its final trial, and that's what he believed. And he said, he says you're exactly where you need to be. So it was kind of neat, because you'd never think, because he was so very regular, as far as the Novus Ordo. But he wasn't a traditionalist, but he was a conservative Novus Ordo.
All right, and let me see. Father Higo said everyone who survived Y2K. I remember Y2K.
Yeah, it's a wonder we survived COBOL, Monsignor. Like, I mean, you guys know what that's an old computer language. It's kind of funny. They were all scared that the date was going to tick over. So some of the younger audience, you might not remember, the sky was supposed to fall with Y2K.
Yeah.
But our toasters didn't blow up, and our clocks didn't steam, and we all survived.
Then there was the End of Days movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, which said that when 1999 hit, and the new year hit, that's when the apocalypse was going to take place. Kind of a fun movie.
Hey, maybe it did on another timeline, Felix.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, of course. If
I'm just being silly.
The multiverse, yeah, right. That's more silliness, And I'm trying my best to fight against that stuff now, because, I even when I first heard it, like, again, as open-minded as I was when I was younger. Even that one was like, okay, can we stop? We're in a video game now. Like, what do we do? Come on. And like, it came out like maybe 2 years, or not even, like 6 months after The Matrix came out. I started hearing this theory. So I was, I wonder where you put this theory together. You know what I mean? I'm sure it had nothing to do with which a movie I love, by the way. But come on, we gotta stop. All right. Let me see. Sorry. Let me get back to the comments. Okay. White Wolf says space is only there in the movies. White Wolf, do you believe in gravity? And I'm not asking to make fun, but because I'm curious to hear his answer here. Space.
Are there people that don't believe in gravity?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what. I think there's a compelling argument for it.
Really?
I'll break it down.
Well, I guess it depends on what you mean by it, though.
Okay, all right.
Like, you can measure the acceleration due to gravity. If I drop a ball 9.8 meters per second squared, right?
Yeah. Well,
so is that what are you talking? Like, I mean, gravity is kind of like the word Catholic. It depends on what you mean by it. Funny enough.
Is it just a concept? Gravity is just a concept. You don't have, if you believe in it, it's real.
I don't wake up in the morning and stick to the ceiling.
I don't believe
it's a pretty consistent concept.
No. I'll give you the best as a steelman argument. It's basically, it's mass and density. Heavy objects sink. If it's like an object that has more mass than its surrounding environment, will sink to the bottom.
But why?
The opposite.
Why would it go bottom then if there's no gravity?
But that's it. Yeah. No, yeah. But I mean, like, do you need gravity for that to happen?
Well, I would think so.
I don't know.
All right. As long as you don't ask me to get on a motorcycle and jump some sharks.
Yeah, no, because I guess it's the way that it's explained, because even gravity, if you ask like Newton to define gravity, like there's really no
that's what I was going to say. Like,
definition for
depending on
gravity.
what you mean by your question,
Yeah.
I know that there are people that are, like, for example, they debate graviton versus mass versus,
Right.
Einstein's understanding of space time
Right.
and bending gravity and all this kind of stuff. So there's all kinds of stuff out there that I'm very basically versed in, very basically.
Yeah. Well, the thing, it's just you start getting funky when it comes to gravity, right? And then when they start using, you start hearing like these bigger arguments of what gravity does, and like we're essentially falling around the sun for eternity. Essentially, that's what gravity kind of says, and that's what all the planets are doing when they orbit, is that they're getting sucked into by the gravity of the sun, but it's just not quite. So they sling around it constantly. It's like a constant rotating fall. And
so actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. So if there's any young people on here, I mean, I imagine it's mostly older people that would watch something like this, but if there's any young people here that have any kind of interest in space or this kind of stuff, and is that the math is very weird, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like in the movies. If White Wolf's right, then it's not even not in the movies.
Definitely not.
Either, but no, but so there's certain software that will sort of help a kid intuitively understand. Like it's like space flight. Is if it's true that it's described as our
legit,
physics
right.
says, it's like marbles going around a toilet bowl.
Yeah.
So things don't go in straight lines per se. They don't. It's interesting from that standpoint. And then of course there's no friction, so exhilaration works differently than it does on Earth. And it's interesting. There's a couple software that one could learn. They used to have it's got to be about 10 years old now, but there was something called Kerbal Space Program, which was a great way to teach kids about the basic engineering and physics involved with orbital mechanics. And there's a free thing too, but I forget what it's called. There's a couple. There's a search on the internet would probably find you some neat stuff, but it's interesting. Whatever's out there, it's I mean, they're talking about putting another 1 million satellites out there so we can have Starlink cell phones. Like, what could go wrong? Like, I mean, it's got to be at a certain point pretty cluttered.
Yeah, pretty cluttered. And then then you find out that like what is going on with satellites and how many are really up there. It's like every time you never see satellites in NASA footage. You never see them.
Well, I mean, I think okay. So on a clear night, you can see satellites.
You can see satellites, right? But it's like from space, you don't see them in NASA. And again, like you see like
well, part of it is too what kind of satellite, what kind of orbit, what kind of So there's. But anyway, I don't want to get into too much of a rabbit hole, but it is kind of interesting.
I know, because, we're going crazy.
For people that like this kind of stuff. I mean, I'm not one of these guys that's going to sit out there and watch for the space station to go by, but you can see it with
you can see the international, the ISS, right? Yeah. That I've seen pictures of it, like that people have taken it with the telescope. And again, I got to be very clear. I'm really playing devil's advocate, although I don't. Here's the deal: I don't write off those theories anymore because that would imply that I know. And one thing I'm learning is that, I really don't know. And every time I would try to speak on like from a place of authority on certain things, I just realized I'm just repeating what I've been told. So that is not real authority. You know what I mean? Like I understand what I've been told about space travel or whatever, anything. Even if we go back to the church and all my presuppositions and all my assumptions were wrong. So now it's like, okay, whenever I hear someone say an opposing view, I'm just like, hey, interesting. and I won't write it off because unless I really, really know, But
Yeah.
All right. Father Hago says, I've been catching hell for weeks, but I got an email today that was extremely supportive. Awesome.
No good.
White Wolf says, have not been to Florida in years. Yeah, I meant to say that. It was not the same person. I think I confused you with somebody else, White Wolf. My apologies. And Father Hago says, honestly, it was nice to hear that they're actually working toward unity and the salvation of souls.
Uh-huh.
This was from 937. Okay. White Wolf says Florida is going to get it first. Disney World is ground zero. Yeah.
Could very well be. We are sitting on basically a limestone slab. There's no basements in Florida for a reason. And, it's kind of
scary.
It's kind of too bad because it's see, my whole life I've lived around anthropological or political liberals. And when I came to Florida, it was the first time that I could be around people that actually think like me, by and large. So I'm really grateful for Florida. I've never had it before. I went through my whole life, my mid 40s, before I actually lived in a town where I wasn't the odd salmon against the stream. So I really love Florida from that perspective. But well, if we get like, I'm right by MacDill, right? So if I'm within, you could, probably as the crow flies, only like less than 2 miles from MacDill, and that of course is CENTCOM's headquarters and everything. And yeah, if there's ever any major conflict, I'll be gone in a flash. But with my luck, I'll open the door and it's like Mad Max, and I'll be like looking up at God and saying, seriously, now I got to work more here. Like, you could have just God has a sense of humor, right? You do what you're told, what the big guy wants of you.
That's right. Now, he said the St. Michael apparitions to
Yeah.
the children at Fatima are the
So that prayer, White Wolf, that I use then, right? Like, I love that. It's just it's such a beautiful prayer for this time as well, right? Obviously for the early 20th century, but it really holds up because, jeepers, there's so many people, guys, in our friends and family, that we have friends and family that have, if they had the faith, they're astray, or they're really off the rails, and a prophet's not welcome in their own hometown. Like our Lord himself said that. So you're kind of limited what you can do for them, but it's a heartbreak. Like, there's people that I used to understand, they're really, really devout, and I don't know, they drink some funny Kool-Aid or something. Next thing you know, they got crystals in the house and they're all gone crazy. And it's like, it's, our faith can be really fragile, right? So we all Catholics used to pray for the grace of final perseverance. So, let's not get cocky and think that we're completely impervious, because, we're not, but it's,
especially if there's like a final test, right? Like, which, I mean, if I listen to, if you believe any like near-death experience stories and stuff, and like sometimes you can see people just straight up failing the test of the afterlife and having to get like almost a do-over, get blessed with a do-over, because obviously not everyone gets that. I wanted to read this. This is chapter 12, verse 1 of Daniel. It says, at that time shall Michael rise up, the great prince, who standeth for the children of thy people, and a time shall come such as never was from that time that nations began, even until that time. And at that time shall thy people be saved, everyone that shall be found written in the book. All right. Now, to be fair, I don't really see that connection with Fatima on that. Standeth for the children of thy people, maybe, but I don't see the connection.
Wait, Wolf, do you want to weigh in some more on that?
Yeah, can you expand on that?
I'm still here, guys. I'm just trying to. I got a minor technical issue, but I can still hear you, but I can't see you. So I'm just trying to figure out what's going on here. Oh.
Yeah, all right, and let me see. Yeah, well, yeah. If you don't mind expanding on that one a little bit, White Wolf. Norm says 2 of Eileen's brothers were servers at Mass for years, one very devout for years, but now they both don't believe in God and study Yuval Harari.
I don't know if I know who that is. Yeah. Do you know who that is?
No.
Felix?
No. I can look it up though.
I got my screen working. Sorry if I was tuning out there on you guys.
Israeli historian.
Yeah, there's people, but it happens in tradition too. Like, okay, so when I was a seminarian, I had a practicum year. Like that's like when I was a Novus Ordo seminarian 30 plus years ago, there was a practicum year, and there were two families, both Opus Dei. And it doesn't matter what group they're in, but I mentioned that because they were, pretty serious about the Catholic faith in the Novus Ordo environment. And the two of them each had 9 kids. And out of those 18 children, my understanding is only one goes to mass. And so the thing is that, there's just a great, there's a great attack on the faith itself. And I think the numbers on the Novus Ordo are a lot worse and a lot let on because there's a bunch of dioceses that are closing parishes left, right, and center. There are several dioceses in France that have not ordained a priest in like a decade. So it's a pretty serious thing. And then Islam is eating everybody's lunch in the West. So, the U.S. has got to wake up and use Canada and the U.K. and France as a cautionary tale. But
so White Wolf says Fatima is not a private revelation. It is not optional. It is part of the deposit of faith. And
some pushback on that. I mean, I know what White Wolf means, and we're in agreement that I don't think it's optional. Like I say, I think if you,
I believe it personally too.
I think if you reject it, that's a pretty serious thing. But technically, when we say private revelation, that's a technical, like the technical definition of the public revelation is the death of the last apostle, right? So that's where that comes from. Private revelation doesn't mean, it's just the Spirit talking to some crazy charismatic lady, right? Like it's so that
it could be it's a private message from the Lord, essentially, right?
No, I think I know what I mean. I don't mean to presume. I'm not reading White Wolf's mind, but and unfortunately, we don't have him here just like talking on air. But the thing is that I understand what I think I understand what he means, and I think I probably agree with him. It's not a private revelation in the sense that it was just meant for those shepherd children. Like sometimes, like say if you had a dream and it was very profound and it was about, a relative of yours that you've been praying for years and years, and she finally came to the faith, and God gave you a little grace, and that you had a dream that she was going to come to the faith, and then it happened, right? So that's an example. Like some people use that term, private revelation, to refer to that. And I myself have people that tell me to get these little miracles all the time, right? And then they're saying, Father, is this a real miracle or is it just a figment of my imagination? And as I tell them, I said, as long as it's compatible with Scripture and the Catechism, then it could very well be. But you don't. It's not meant to be in the Tampa Bay Times, right? Like it was for you, right? So in that definition, I agree with White Wolf that Fatima is a lot bigger than that, right? Like it's a lot bigger than you having a holy dream or, sometimes God gives us little consolations, right? Little miracles. We're praying and we have a special moment, or priest is very common that at least once or twice in your life offering mass, you have a mystical experience or, a confirmation that, God's with you in this. And these little graces and he gives them to you because it encourages you through the hard times, right? So, but those are private. That again, you don't see me going to the Tampa Bay Times. Oh, there's got a miracle and science can't prove it, and blah blah blah. Because a lot of these things are meant just for us, right? Like the individual or little graces, little consolations. But in that respect, I 100% agree with White Wolf that Fatima is not a private revelation in that understanding of the word. Where Fatima is a private revelation is when you're talking about it in contrast to the apostles and the Scripture. So some would say that Fatima is kind of like like an appendix to the gospel, and it may very well be, but we still wouldn't use that. We wouldn't use the term that it's a public revelation. So it's really just one of these things. It's just the labeling because it's confusing. It's because like people are confusing the term private revelation with, like I say, an interior, like a personal individual's grace. And this is definitely was meant a message for the world. So in that sense, it's not private at all, right? So same with Akita, same with, so a number of them. But but I think I know what you're getting at, White Wolf. It's just more or less theologically, it can be used as a technical term when you're talking to Protestants, for example, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so he says people who do not have a true devotion to the Immaculate Heart are in proximate danger of
100%.
failing or falling for the deceits of the Antichrist. Yeah,
100%. There's going to be a deception, a lie so big that like 99% of people are going to fall for it. Like, you know, when I stop and I think, what lie could be big enough? You know, imagine this. Imagine if Leo got up tomorrow. Now he hasn't. I'm just making this up. This is just a thought exercise. Imagine Leo gets up tomorrow, and he gets up and he makes a public statement from the UN. Oh, we've known about these aliens for like 50 years, and that's why Vatican II moved the way it did, and we're moving people in a direction where they honor humanity because that's what our emphasis should be, and that these are space brothers. And you know, if he said that, whether he made it up or whether he truly believed it,
yeah,
I mean, that right there would destroy, like, I don't know, 90% of Christianity. People would just abandon the faith within a generation. And the thing is, one man has that much power, and it doesn't matter. All the debates, is he real pope or not? It doesn't matter. All he would have to do is say that, especially if he said, well, we knew for a while. That would be it. That would be it. And so the thing is, that's what I call a vector of Antichrist. So there's a couple of them. I'll tell you the other one. And again, I have not researched in this, and you guys might know more. I'm just saying that it's going to be the subject of a future show someday. But these guys finding, like, under certain chemical inspiration, these computer codes and under laser light. And it's like, here's the problem. If people are seeing the same symbol, something weird is going on that we don't understand. Now, it could be demonic manifestation. It could be, I don't know, some window into God's software in a way, you know, or for lack of a better term, the matrix of creation. There's all kinds of things. But I'm telling you, depending on how the alien story goes and the simulation theory goes, if the right ecclesiastical personages get behind one of these stories, most people will abandon the faith. And I think that's we know when our Lord comes back, there's only going to be a few, right? Like, as he says, when the Son of Man returns, will it be on earth faith? So, that's a repeat, Phil.
Okay. Let me see.
We already got that one.
Yeah, Norm says, yes, there are so many atheistic Jews who still identify with the tribe and believe they are superior in intelligence to the religions.
Yeah, I've run into that too, Norm. Like, it's not just the Jewish atheists that are like that. You know, I remember in university, again, remember I started in physics, and I was friends with some engineers, and then I had sort of a conversion experience, and I became very devout, and they all just sort of, oh, you're a loser now, you're stupid because you're religious, right? So that was the first time, because I grew up in a sort of an unchurched household, but people that were devout were not considered bad or weird or stupid in my community. Like, they probably would be now, because the whole world's gone nuts. But in my day, I was the odd kid out for not going to Sunday school, and yet I read the Bible on my own. And so, I embraced the faith full hog.
Yeah. There's a sadness regarding their liberal atheist turn. Yeah, the liberal atheism is a blight on the country. It is like almost an import at this point. It's kind of,
it doesn't make them any happier, Felix.
No. It makes them worse. It makes them far more miserable. Yeah. And let me see. Father Hagel says, unfortunately, the everyday Catholic lacks the spine to do that. Oh, I guess that is the
write the letter, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, demand. Yeah, no, you're right. But I mean, you can only take the horse to water, right? Well, like, if people aren't going to stand up and help themselves, you know, if you were a soldier, for example, and you went into a country that, you know, and you had all the supplies and all the ammunition and all the armaments, you're going to help liberate these people, and the people didn't want to be liberated. Well, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
Like, you either got the stuff or you don't, right? You either got a backbone or you don't. And I guess the thing is, if our Lord Jesus isn't worth fighting for, you know, I mean, I'm disappointed in Dr. Marshall, because yes, I critique, but I also accept critique, and I just think that, you know,
to shut off the conversation,
it says something that he's not willing to answer. Because here's the problem: I'm not the only person asking the question, right? So you can block Meikle, but you can't block Meikle's questions in the eyes of your viewers.
That's right.
And you'd be far better to, address these things and just say, Meikle, you're wrong here, here, here. We'd agree to disagree.
Yeah.
But, it's a very effeminate thing. I think this is the crisis in Catholic manhood, that a trad husband is measured by how much money he makes versus on whether he is a man with spine. And I face my attack. The only time I ever block somebody is if they refuse to be respectful. Like they're just, I don't expect people to kiss my butt, but I'm not gonna put up with people that once they're corrected in a factual error, that they continue to assert the error and without any evidence to the contrary and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I have blocked people, and I typically block people that have blocked me.
Yeah.
But I don't,
By the way,
I don't block people for disagreement. All right. I want you guys to disagree with me. If you have a reasoned disagreement with me, that's good for both of us because you have, like, I'll be respectful to you if you're respectful to me, right? That's my default. I like to learn from people I disagree with. And hopefully you're that way too. And maybe I can give you some insight and you can give me some insight. And guess what? I'm not even there to convince you. I'm there to explain my understanding and hopefully demonstrate that it's reasonable given assumption ABC, that conclusion, PQR is correct, right? And so maybe we don't share the same assumptions, and that's fine. And we can agree to disagree. But but what happens sometimes with respectful discourse is you detect either weaknesses in your own presentation, or you help somebody with some misunderstanding, right? Like, so for example, it's a common misunderstanding. People don't know the difference between an old Catholic and an old Roman Catholic. So, I mean, that's a common, it's an okay mistake, and it's not all their fault. I mean, I was ordained 2 years before I could understand this crazy history, right? Like, it was very convoluted. And the reason is that there's all these different groups using the same name and then changing their names and stuff like this. And if you don't, you just basically got to follow the bishop line. And then it starts clicking. And our Sede friends are already well hoisted in on this because that's their world, right? They have to follow their line, who's who in the zoo that way. And that's really our way too. So there's a line that tends to be very compatible with other traditionals, and there's other lines that are not.
All right. So Norm says everything comes back to who our Lord Jesus is and what he really said and meant. It's not about personal preference or, God forbid, what's popular. Let me see. I agree. Yeah. White Wolf says Vatican II taught heresies. Catholic and Muslims do not worship the same God. I agree.
White Wolf and I agree 100% on that too. And it's one of my things that I get people really angry at. But the main reason, guys, is that God is revealed as Father, and to a Muslim, that's a blasphemy.
Yep.
So, and also our God is a triune God, right? So that's part of his nature. It's not an accident. And what's happened for the sake of ecumenism, and I think in part Christians thought that they could be peacemakers if they could make this Abrahamic faith thing, which is really kind of a Muslim corruption and also a Masonic corruption, right? The great architect, Abrahamic faith, basically. So the thing is that they want to do this because the obstacle to the enemy's plan, if you want to enrage a demon, it's the incarnation of our Lord, Word, the eternal Logos, Word made flesh and dwelt among us. This is they're not content just to get a soul in grave sin. They want to defile you. They want to embarrass you. They want to degrade you, because by doing so, they spit on the incarnation, because we're made in God's image, and also God through our baptism raised us up, right? So the devil is very and his minions are very concerned at degrading us in our sin, exposing our degradation. But I 100% agree. 100% agree. So with White Wolf on this, and some of you don't, but that's one of my big issues with Vatican II as well. You can't find there's one or two like so. Okay, so Pius X apparently, the Pope, not the organization. He referred to Islam sharing the same God apparently, and I'm not. It's been referred to me several times, and I haven't really dug into it. And there are a few others that have, but it's actually relatively rare, and it's never been pronounced de fide anyway. So it's not like he can have a personal opinion, right? But the thing is that there's prior to 1960, there wasn't any of this drum beating that we're all believing the same God, and we don't. I'm not even sure I believe in the same God as modern Christians, right? Like they believe in the God of Teilhard, and I believe in the God of Athanasius, and I don't think those gods are the same. So I get people mad at me with that too. I say, you can have the false God of Teilhard or the true one of Athanasius, but not both.
All right, so Father, we are gonna have to go in turbo mode. We're still on comments from not even 10 o'clock yet. All right, so I'm gonna
really? Okay, let's whip through them.
Okay.
I'm glad you guys are all talking today. But...
Yeah. So Father Hager says we'll have to talk about it when I'm in Florida. All
That's
right.
fine.
He says it's because we're not head over heels because Cardinal Burke ordained some priests in the FSSP.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not a big Cardinal Burke fan. I'm not a big Cardinal Mueller fan. I'll tell you right now, if you ask me, okay, Bishop Meikle, which Novus Ordo bishops do you like? There's only one I read. I mean, I get along with a bunch of them, and I even got classmates that are, and there have been some that are nice to me. And, I spent a number of hours with Bishop Rene Gracita, God rest his soul. He was a Novus Ordo bishop. And he was very courteous to me, and I liked him. And he was a B-17 pilot. That was really neat. He died over 100 years old. But and I know some bishops in Canada and some vicar generals here and there. But here's the thing: the one that I really like, and I know a lot of trads and a lot of Sadies don't like him, but I like Athanasius Snyder. I like Bishop Snyder very much. And I don't agree with him on everything, but I think he at least has the right attitude. Except he does get he and Sades get into it. I don't follow this stuff with enough granularity to really have an opinion on the war with the Sades and Athanasius Snyder. But I will say, as far as Novus Ordo bridge to tradition, and I love Bishop Snyder. And again, I disagree with some stuff with Bishop Snyder. And people, they don't like his addendum to the catechism and stuff like this. Listen, he's the only Novus Ordo, folks, that is supportive of traditional irregulars. All right? So he's the only one that I know that is publicly supportive of traditional irregulars. And I think that if he and the Sades didn't rub each other the wrong way, that, I mean, there's, like I just say, I think we should build bridges where we can and not expect people to be perfect. And there's just a lot of our disagreements. Only a true Catholic Pope that everybody accepts and or our Lord Jesus himself is going to fix this. Or, there's a prophecy somewhere. White Wolf might even be the guy to ask which one. But there's a prophecy that says, Peter and Paul are coming back and new hierarchy is going to be restored. And, if all that stuff happens, like, wow, that would be fantastic. But anyway, so White Wolf gets blocked too. Okay, who did you get blocked by?
By Michael, Matt. I think that's Matt Frad, right? Anthony Stein, Gemma. Oh, that's hilarious.
I don't know who Gemma Doherty is.
Yeah, Gemma
I know Ryan. I know Ryan Grant. I know Father Dix. I know Dr. Stein.
And that's just to name a few. We got to block.
Well, I think part of it, White Wolf, is you're a pod stirrer, but I mean, I've always loved that about you. Actually, I mean, it's. I encountered White Wolf when he would comment on the rundown.
Oh, that's
right. I always got a kick out of him because I would just watch the show as a regular spectator. I was a guest like maybe twice, but I would watch the show normally on replay, and White Wolf would be on there.
That's cool. So Taylor Marshall's he's Taylor Marshall. I was critical of Rob, but then I got new instructions from the intelligence community. That's funny. Same with the SSPX.
Yeah,
Pius XII was worse than good Pope John.
Yeah, that's Father Martin's opinion. So that's kind of neat. Yeah. So well, if you ever come down to Florida, you make sure you give us some warning, so we'll clear an afternoon or two in our schedule because you'll get a kick out of us in person, I think.
At least Father Martin was reading my comments on the rundown. That's what he said.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is it. That's where I met you. Like, and
Yeah.
it's or electronically. So yeah, you come down, visit Father Martin and myself. Yeah, it'd be a hoot. You gotta get a wolf hat though.
White Wolf says
Yeah,
Pope Frantic.
you gotta do that.
Yeah, right. Now, he said, as a Catholic, you have to believe in Our Lady of Fatima. She is part of the deposit of faith. The Pope should have made that clear at last. So again, I got to be clear, White Wolf. I believe it personally. I didn't know that because I thought it was like, if you don't believe it, because I've heard skeptical arguments that it was like a government op or whatever, something.
No. It's the greatest. Felix, I'll tell you, it is the greatest miracle in terms of
see the Sundance,
the number of people.
Yeah,
and in terms of, so yeah, I know. I think we're kind of splitting hairs here in the sense that I do agree that anybody who rejects Fatima is an idiot or misinformed.
Right.
So in terms of is it the same level of assent required like to believe in the Immaculate Conception? No. Right. So this is what I'm saying. Theological term versus colloquial term. So in colloquial term, we 100% agree. And then if you're just getting into the weeds and writing a theological paper, then there's some more hair splitting involved.
Yeah. And you know what? To be fair too, again, here's the thing. There's nothing from what was told in Fatima that you can't really learn in the Bible and in just Mass, going to Mass in the tradition church. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, in a sense, you could argue, Felix, that Fatima was kind of like our Jonah to Nineveh, right? And we had a chance.
I see.
Right. So in that,
in
that sense, like when the popes fail to reveal a secret properly, like what's worse than them not revealing the secret is they kind of lied about it. Like, remember they came out and there's this convoluted story about John Paul II's assassination attempt.
Yeah.
And I mean, the thing is, guys, and there's this whole business about Sister Lucy Truth. Like, I don't, again, I'm not an expert, but there's shenanigans.
Yeah.
There's shenanigans. And I think Fatima is kind of key, because Fatima was meant to be, I think, the rebuke to this modernism taking hold. And then when it was decided that Fatima was going to be shelved, and they're truly trying to shelve it big time now. Big time. So...
Right. I'm sorry. Hold on.
That's why I say I do agree. I do agree with White. Well, my only disagreement is just like I say, if it's again, if we're writing a theological paper and we're it's but I know what he means, and I think I do. I shouldn't presume, but if he means what I think he means, then I'm probably 100% in agreement.
All right. So next is there's nothing private about God wishing to establish in the world devotion.
Well, again, I agree with you.
Okay. Well, no, but I mean,
it's a technical term.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he had a run here. So
I'm trying to find a secular equivalent or analogy where we use a term, but when we use it in a certain context, it has a jeepers. I should be able to pick an analogy off the top of my head. It's like. This would be a very imperfect one. So when I talk about a stall in an aircraft, I'm generally not referring to the engine not functioning. I'm referring to the angle of attack exceeding a certain point on the wing and you lose lift. Yeah. So in a way, that's kind of what we're arguing about. It's like, okay, the word is correct, but in certain contexts, it means something specific, right? So that's why I'm saying if you're writing a theological paper, it's different than us just shooting the breeze here. But see, if I don't make mention of that, White Wolf, what happens is, Meikle said this is a public revelation. It's like, So this is the thing, right? Like, people are always looking at something to quote you or get you trapped. Or I'm always scared of, like, I'm bad for rabbit holes. So, what if I start an analogy or start a thought and then I never finish it? And then it's in its unfinished form, it misleads people. So that's kind of my paranoia too. And I try not to do it, but I'm human.
All right. So, he goes, devotion to the Sacred Heart was a private revelation too. See, White Wolf's losing it now. So I suppose the priest cannot choose to keep.
I can't, right? I can't make the argument any clearer other than to say that.
Yeah, well, he had a
okay,
3-minute run.
A lay
Father,
person
so,
and a theologian are going to use the terms differently. Maybe that's the best way to say it.
yeah.
And that in the way that he is depicting it, I 100% agree with him.
And to be clear, he's making one long point here, so it's not like he's responding to you and not
No,
getting the point.
That's fine. No,
You know
I get
what I'm
it.
saying?
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
So he
God gave
said-
us all these beautiful gifts, and
Yeah.
then the church seems to say, "Oh well, that's just a private revelation," right?
Yeah,
I 100% agree with that.
yeah, and White Wolf, for me, remember, I am just a layman, midwit,
And
church
okay, so
attendee,
here's
so,
what
you know
we'll
what I
do.
mean?
So again, we're
Yeah.
near 100% agreement. So I would disagree with you that a pope cannot resign. However, I do agree with you. I don't think Benedict did so properly.
Yeah, there's a like if you like start getting dementia or something like that, right? And
Yeah.
is it appropriate to resign? And is there?
No,
is
I
it
mean,
tradi-
well,
Ooh, this is interesting.
you're supposed to die in office. White Wolf's right. There's only been, I think, 2 resignations. So some of you guys could fact check me, but I think it's Celestine II or something like that.
And Benedict.
There's only been, pretty sure there's only been 2. So in 2,000 years. And I mean, a lot of us are kind of disappointed or even angry at Benedict because it unleashed Francis upon us. But that's why there's so many different theories that are trying to explain, well, maybe he did it to save the church and save the papacy. And there's all these different stories. And again, they're all interesting, but it's beyond our ability to verify.
St. Peter telling our Lord he wanted to resign. He gave him 2 weeks. Lord, I'm gonna give you 2 weeks. And, you can move on. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Oh, a little bit. Leo is Pope the same way John Paul II was the Pope. I love this guy's takes, man.
I know.
But
it's great. The great thing about having White Wolf on is whoever I don't trigger, he triggers. So this is great. It's just like the gift that keeps on giving whenever you show up, White Wolf. So come every week.
Oh, Sanctus, here we go, switching it up. He says, it's interesting. The third secret of Fatima reminds me of the private revelation of Pope Leo XIII.
Oh, right.
Of him overhearing a discussion between God and Satan. My question is, when did this century begin?
You know, that was the biggest debate, I would say, in the seminary common rooms, like the break room kind of thing. We all, us young guys that were all full of vim and vinegar, we're going to lead the crusade for our Lord and everything, right?
Yeah.
Everybody had a big, like, there's all these theories about that too, right? So that was our big question. And also, does he mean a literal century, or does he mean an era, or does he mean, but I mean,
that's the one that gets on my nerves when we get a period of time and then all of a sudden is it really that period of time? It's like, I would say if it says 100 years, it's probably 100 years. I mean,
there's a lot of Catholic prophecy that comes true but doesn't seem to match the timeline that it says. So that is something to file away, right? So So for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to be that exact dates work so well with Catholic prophecy.
Well, here's the thing too. Sometimes, like, all right, so I was actually thinking about this, and this actually kind of goes to, I guess, private revelation, right? Like, so the story of God and Joseph, right? In Genesis, right? He would his dreams were private revelation, right? I mean, he ended up having, but initially, I would say that those were private revelations. God would give Joseph a dream; he would tell him how to interpret the dream, and then go back to the Pharaoh.
Well,
right?
Again, there's two ways of, there's two definitions of, there's two ways
Okay,
of
so I'm
using
wrong.
that term,
Okay.
Right? So
Understood.
one of them is it's private in the sense it was given to him privately, but because it's now part of the scripture and the word of God, it's not private.
It is not private. Right. Okay, understood. All right. Next is Father Hago says Marshall is backpedaling so he can join the ordinariate. I've had that figured out since he had Father Calvin on his show and basically bragged about.
Well, he's going to get a rude awakening, I think, Monsignor, because I think the ordinariate is. I don't think it has a future. I don't. And I'm not saying this to be mean. It's nothing against the ordinary priests. I just don't think the winds of change, the synodal winds, are very friendly to the ordinariate or Opus Dei or even the Oratorians. I love the Oratorians. And I just think that they're going to come after all these guys because they're too the synodal path wants the chicken dance. It doesn't want reverent English custom liturgy, right? It's so if you're not on board with either the rainbows or the chicken dance, then the big target's on your head, and it's only a matter of time. And I doubt the ordinariate could take him at this point, Monsignor, because he's just too public a figure. It would be, I think it would be a complete disaster for the ordinariate. It'd be a complete disaster for any diocesan bishop. The guy's just too famous. And it's a bishops don't like risk. Like Novus Ordo bishops, well, all bishops really, probably, including me, but bishops don't like risk with personnel. And we're very risk adverse. Like our crowd, oh my goodness, all these people that want to join and everything, and God love you, and it's just like we're so I don't know what the word it is. Maybe Father Haygood could come up with an adjective that would be true, that would be not too insulting, but anyway. No, but we just I mean, part of it is maybe it's just because of the history of most of our clergy that we value the complete unity of thought and charism, pretty much, of world frame. And it's so like our process includes like 2 senior priests have to sign off with me if we take somebody, because I mean, I could get run over by a car on Highway 19 tomorrow, and then all my clergy have to deal with whatever we recruited, right? So it's, for me, we kept small, and we kept small for our own sanity's sake, but we all got to do what God wants us to do. So that applies for other independent groups that want to grow quicker. There's pluses and minuses to both ways. There's increased risk growing quicker, that you're going to get a turkey, because you're always going to get a turkey or two. But all it takes, especially in a small organization, is one bad guy, and it can blow everything up.
That's right. Okay, let me see. Let me get back to the comments. All right. It's no different. His trans hermit.
It's true. They were calling poor Father Martin, when he was a lay brother, they were calling him a fake monk, and it was like, but you got a woman with a beard, dude. Like,
yeah, it's just,
like those in glass houses, right?
Talk about
some of this stuff
eye.
You got to realize, like Martin and I in particular, Father Martin and I in particular, we really don't get offended at a lot of this stuff tossed at us. Like we will banter, we'll engage to the level of respect that's given, or disrespect. We escalate, right? Like I have absolutely no problem slapping somebody around on Twitter if I have to. But here's the thing, is that we don't really care, right? Like, I mean, it's like you don't like us, so what? I mean, why would I want to be liked by a Bergoglian? Why would I want to be liked by a daughter or son of Pachamama? Like, if the sons and daughters of Pachamama hate me, that's treasure in heaven. I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think there's some of you studied psychology, and some of you are at least street smart in it, and that someone who has a certain level of I want to say humility, but I don't mean self-deprecation. When I say humility here, I mean that you're comfortable with what you suck at, and you're comfortable with saying, but I'm good at this, and you're confident in that. Then really, strangers can't hurt you. And if anything, I like to wind them up. That's my dark side, actually. It's something it's in my examination. It's in my confessions. Because Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, used to say he was an energy monster. And what he meant by it, and I laugh because I am too, right? And what that is that if you can find mean or bad people and get them angry, that made him happy. And then he would say, they're my mascots. Oh, look, I got another mascot. But it was funny. He was a God rest his soul. I hope he wasn't he wasn't a Christian. They say he converted. Well, maybe he did. Maybe
not
he didn't.
really. Yeah.
But the thing is, I just hope in God's mercy he was like Aristotle, that there was some good in him, because he was a very wise man in many respects. Not he was wrong on some things, but he was a wise man in many respects, and I think he intended to be a good man. So I valued him. But one of the things that I got a kick out of him is that he had a great deal of respect for sincere Christians. So he was good that way. But he was such a character because he would there was one thing that would trigger him, and that was you weren't allowed to say the word Garfield. He'd block you.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Because people were mocking his cartoonist career by intentionally implying, "Oh, aren't you the creator of Garfield?" Which and he liked Jim Davis, the creator of Garfield, but he didn't like to be called Garfield. And everybody has their nerve, right? But yeah, that would drive him strange. But it was kind of funny because people could say the most vicious of things, and it's water off a duck's back. But all it took was somebody to say Garfield, and it was all over.
That's hilarious. So Dale says, "I'm Archbishop Meikle, a courteous bull in a china shop. Naps are great in Florida."
Yeah, that's a good way of describing me. I am a bull in a china shop. Yeah, you know what? There's very few people that have a neutral opinion of me, and I am what I am. Felix can tell you, I'm the same guy you see on air here.
Yep.
In real life, and I'm fire and brimstone from the pulpit, and then a coffee. I just treat you like an adult, and we can agree to disagree.
Yeah.
But I every once in a while I have a liberal that comes and says to me, "I have an issue with your sermon," and I just say, "Listen, my commission from God is to preach His word, to paint the lines on the highway, the narrow path, and then afterwards I'll treat you like an adult. But you can't get mad at me for preaching the traditional view of the faith and the interpretation of the scripture and the saints and the councils, and but we have the odd liberal, don't we, Felix? But there's not exactly a stampede of them at our church. Yeah, but there are one or two. There are one or two that they don't really agree with everything that comes out of me, but they feel respected and they feel challenged, I think, and so they keep coming back. God love them.
Yeah, and now, White Wolf says, in reference to the Voyager, I don't believe the news. They make it up as they go along.
Well, there's no way for us to know for sure. Right. You're right there.
And White Wolf, I'm sure you feel the same way about that Mars rover, because I'm kind of one of those. I'm like, okay, so you basically have this remote control car in like Nevada or somewhere, Arizona, in like.
I don't doubt there's at least been one or two of them that are like that. Like, so here's the thing. The funny thing is that, like, this is one of the data points. Like, I guess they could be playing 4D chess with us, but one of the data points that the say the Mars rovers are real is the remember that time that some idiot used metric when he should have used English or vice versa, and the thing just sailed right past.
Yeah.
So I mean that's kind of an embarrassing bonehead thing to do. That if it was fake, that they would have unless they were playing 4D chess, which I suppose they could.
Maybe, yeah. And it's like, but yeah, it's like then we find out, those pictures are doctored, and NASA.
Well, some of them are okay. So here, I don't mean to be Mr. Tinfoil Hat here, guys, but Felix is right about that. First of all, they are. Like, I mean, this isn't about. We don't have to get too crazy here.
Yeah, just this issue right here.
The question is why. Like, AJ of the Y Files, AJ Gentile, or Gentiles, I don't know how you pronounce it, but anyway, he did a great job with that. He's, there was some show that he did. For some reason, NASA keeps photoshopping all the stuff. So the thing is, even if, let's just play devil's advocate for a moment. Let's say there's a perfectly logical, reason for why they Photoshop it, right? The thing is, you should still be able to get the raw, but they weren't letting the raw out. So the question has to be, well, why? So in the Mars case, they were putting a redder soil. They were putting a red filter on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what are you guys doing? Like, I can understand if you're making a poster, like you're recruiting colonists to go to Mars, and you put a red filter
for artistic effect.
But when you're talking about raw scientific imagery, why doctor it? Like it's just one of these things that even there's no real reason to do it. So
Yeah.
why do they do it? Is it just because some guy gets paid six figures to do color filters and he just, well, I'm going to put a red on? I mean, what's going on? There might be a very innocent explanation, but it's just weird.
So yeah, and it just is it. You take the color filter off, it looks like it's just it's in some mountainous range.
It's
in
it's
Utah
brownish red. Yeah.
Or Colorado.
And maybe, yes, no, but you might be right. Like, even if they did land something, what if it crashed and they didn't want to admit they wasted $1 billion, and so they used the desert, and there's some weird stuff. Like, there wasn't a pop can, but there was some weird earthly thing in some of the pictures. So I mean, there's definitely some shenanigans going with the PR arm, but that doesn't mean they didn't necessarily go. But it's a high risk thing to be doing stuff like that, because especially as photo, on our computer, guys, we have more computing power to analyze an image now than, when you look at the Sister Lucy pictures from the 60s, I mean, it's so obvious to any of our eyes and minds now, because we know what we have: Photoshop, we have PaintNet, we have GIMP, we have whatever.
We didn't know
we have
that
all
before.
this photo imagery stuff on our computer, and we're used to knowing, especially if you're in any kind of creative field, even with the internet, even doing the silly videos I do for this show. I mean, you learn how to use this stuff even as an amateur, and then when you look at a poor photo job from the 60s, it's like, it's so glaring, and so, but it's a high risk thing when you mess around with images and stuff, and you claim that they're not, like, no one believes that Mother Miriam and Taylor Marshall were scolding me in a bar, right? I mean, that it's funny because it's obviously not true, right? Like, I don't claim that that's true.
How dare you?
So
Sorry.
anyway, I don't feel bad I kept him in that image now that he blocked me.
Yeah. Right. So Sanctus Service
forever.
Okay.
And not scolding me is just so fitting. Sanctus's thing, because I'll talk all night and you guys want to go to bed.
Yeah, right. Sanctus Service, he has two back-to-back. I'm not surprised that he converted because of science as a second-order effect. Science was developed by the church so that we could understand the Lord's creation, to know and then love him better.
I think Sanctus is talking about Catholic, yeah.
And while I understand why most scientists are secular or full-out atheists, science still has the ability baked in to open people's eyes to the Lord and his sovereignty and his love. Absolutely. The true scientific method, especially, 100%. I don't, but it's like when they deviate from that, still call it science. It's good, and then other people believe it, and then here we go. All right, like this White Wolf, I'm sure, will relate to what I'm talking about here. But during the 2000s, the 90s, and the 2000s, and even late 80s. We got flooded by cable TV with these space shows, science shows about space, where it's a bunch of like theoretical physicists basically discussing fan fiction of what aliens look like on other planets and how they would possibly operate. And then they would show us these images and kind of silently try to pawn them off as legitimate images of space, and they're actually CG, and like anybody with a trained eye could tell, but they weren't. Sometimes they were trying to go out of their way to make it look realistic. And then again, this ties into with like when you see present stories, when they say, "Oh, scientists may have found another planet that can sustain life," and then they show you the picture in the it's like this Earth-like looking planet. In reality, there's saw a pixel blink.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, that you're absolutely right about that. There's no telescope, even the super duper ones, that can do anything other than just basically detect gravity wobbles and determine that.
Right.
Yeah, so it's
they'll see it blink a certain way. It's like, oh, so this means it's reflecting water, so therefore you don't know that.
You don't know that.
And they pass it off like they do. And I called it. White Wolf does not believe in gravity.
You're right. You know what? Maybe we should have like a crazy science day show, and we'll get White Wolf on. Maybe he's got to get the wolf helmet though. That'd be great, and he can come on and we can or avatar him with a wolf. That would be good. We'll do something silly. But anyway, no. But this would be fun to talk about someday. Because I mean, again, I'm basically open to whatever's real, true, and good, right? So if people want to make their case, and I don't, I'll tell you, I'm very disappointed with how mainstream science works. And Dr. Wolfgang Smith kind of got me thinking about that too, just the way he was kind of treated. He was obviously a genius, multiple PhDs, this kind of thing. And whether he's right or wrong, just have some others treated him like they don't like. It's kind of like dealing with the Novus Ordo with the real gung-ho ones, right? They just can't accept any criticism or any questions. You're not allowed to question certain things. And I think a sincere question is a good thing, right? If we have a natural law inclination to seek God, to seek the truth. So regardless of our differences, and some people that watch here, we have some differences. Hopefully we have more in common than our differences. But like, for example, I use John chapter 1, and I remind people that they're heirs. Your baptism makes you an heir of the kingdom of God. Well, that means not all humans are equal. Now, some people go absolutely nuts on that. I'm not saying that we don't have a certain equal dignity on a certain level of the Imago Dei, but in terms of, our Lord himself said, do not think that you chose me, I chose you. So there's the Augustinian model of predestination versus Calvin, which again is too much of a topic when we're already an hour over. But yeah. So what else we got there, Felix? We should wrap her up. How many more do we have?
Oh, we're still like an hour behind on comments, but we're actually almost done. I'll run through these quick, and I'm gonna actually make this call.
And I want to thank you guys for your comments. And by the way, if any of you end up watching this in replay, will you do me a big favor and just leave I'm gonna make sure the comments are set, and Felix, maybe you can too, because I think the comments might be turned off on the regular thing. But anyway, leave a comment, even if it's like, Meikle, I hate your haircut, or
wow, Felix actually is a midwit. You can totally put that in.
Yeah, really something like that. Any comments fine, because the engagement helps us, right? So even if you disagree, it would help us a great deal if you because the chat, I don't think the chat covers it the same way. So if you watch it replay, if you leave a comment, and I'm going to try to get better, and I'm going to try to encourage Felix to take a look too, to maybe answer people as well, and maybe just take one day a week, and we can sort of catch up on some of these things.
So I'm going to make the call. I think it's pretty obvious at this point. White Wolf is more than likely a flat earther, and if you can confirm it, I'm curious. And again, that echoes back, Father. I'm sorry. The ball accelerates at 9.862 meters per second square. Okay, all right.
That's true.
Gravity is based on the weight of the Earth being 5.9722 times 10. Really? And who measured that? The number is based on a hypothesis.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that one. I don't know how they determined the mass of the Earth. That's a very good.
Nor can they really define it. Yeah, nor they can define what gravity actually is.
Now, I will say this, and I don't want to get White Wolf on too much of a rabbit hole so close to midnight. But I have a private pilot, and it's. And I'll tell you, you don't have to go too high to see an obvious curvature. But I know that there's people that, and we had in the Navy, there was something called a boatage, and the only really useful table in it it's like a mariner's Bible, and there was a table there for the mast height of a ship. So if you see the mast height of a ship, then you can determine the distance if you know the mast height. Basically where you'd see from the curvature of the Earth, where the mast would appear, and see that kind of stuff does.
Support round Earth,
right? So, and one of the Psalms refers to a round Earth as well. So, I mean, I'm not a big flat earther. I'm not. If I was to say, and again, guys, I'm not anti-science, but I am a little like I'm non-conventional in that. Again, I just want whatever's provable and truly provable. I have an interest in, but I do believe there's a high probability that we have a heliocentric universe.
Yeah.
So that is kind of a weird one, right? Like that most of you watching this wouldn't agree with me there. And
heliocentric is
Dr. Smith believed that. Dr. Wolfgang Smith believed that. He didn't know about a geocentric, but he definitely believed in a heliocentric. So So and actually the math works. I think if the sun's in the third position, the orbital math kind of works, which is kind of neat. Someone did this great YouTube animation, and then it got taken down, but they showed the Copernican model versus the it's very interesting. So, but again, I'm open to. I just want to know what's real, true, and good, and in the meantime, I just try to get souls to heaven. But it will not disappoint me if I find out that White Wolf's wrong. Our Lord says, "Oh,
Right.
White Wolf was right." Great.
Yeah.
I just want to know what the real true thing is.
I'd laugh.
I'm convincible, but I'm also not.
It wouldn't ruin my life if I found that out. But like, there's like a couple of images that I've seen, like, and again, these are, where, like, for example, like if you look at like night sky, time lapse, you could see stars. They're rotating around Polaris or whatnot, but you can see them dip below the horizon. So if they're dipping below the horizon, that means that it's not an endless plane where it dips below. That's why I'm still leaning towards round Earth.
This is really neat. And some of you, if any of you are amateur astronomers, you'll know that this is possible. But if I took a brief glance at the star chart, I used to do this as a kid, right? Brief glance at it, I could tell the time from the night sky within 15 minutes. Like I'd have to just refresh me what something looks at to pick your time. But after a while, you get a feel for it, and it's kind of cool. Yeah. And also, you can navigate with the stars as well. And if you're stuck in the woods and there's a clear night, so it's some of these things are kind of useful skills. I would say, it'd be interesting to get into this with White Wolf a little bit more.
I know. This gets so fun.
Well, it's just interesting. It's like I get one for you, White Wolf. So if you're still on, like, it was a TED Talk that was banned and it got taken down.
Really?
And it was one of the most interesting things. It was this professor. He was at Oxford. Oh, no, excuse me. It was one. Okay, he was at one, and then he visited the other, whichever. But there's the two big universities in England are Oxford and Cambridge. And he was, I think, an evolutionary biologist, but he was. He believed that the greatest scientific breakthroughs come from people that are well-versed in more than their specialty. So he decided he was going to study some physics. And he had some weird inclination to request the field manual from like 1905 or whatever it is. Okay, so I might be off a year or two, guys. You can fact check me. You can look up, find this TED Talk. It's fascinating. Look, all you have to do is say banned science TED Talks, and you'll see the excerpt. So what happened is so he's a serious guy. He's at Oxford or Cambridge or whatever. And he decides he wants to study physics, and he wants the field manual. Well, the field manual is a physicist's Bible, and it contains all the formula and all these constants and all this kind of stuff. And he got into his head, okay, he had a 2024 one, but he wanted to see the 1904 one or whatever, something at the beginning of the 20th century. And he went to the library, and the library said, well, we don't keep those. We just keep the new one. And he was like, well, that's ridiculous. And their answer to him, well, it's supposed to be constants. It's not like you need all these copies from every year. So he searched high and low, couldn't find a copy. And he went to the patent office, and they had a copy. And what he discovered was the speed of light, it's a constant in physics.
Yeah. The
speed of light apparently had a 20 meter per second drop somewhere between the year 1918 and 1940 something. And so anyway, you got to realize that this breaks a physicist's brain, right? Like this, you might as well just like tell everybody that water's dry. So he's like, well, it's got to be a typo. And there's this department at either Cambridge or Oxford, I forget which one was which, but it was at the opposite university that he had tenure at. And he went it was a department it was a very obscure subdivision of, what did they call it? It was metrology, I think it was, not meteorology, but it sounds like meteorology.
Yeah.
And it was basically the study of these, maintaining these constants and maintaining the archival, all the science stuff, the basic things that scientists rely on. And so he goes and he says, well, if anybody knows the story about the speed of light, it'll be this guy. So he goes in, and he said in the TED Talk, this was the reaction. He comes in and he says, hey, this is what I discovered. There's a 20 meter per second difference in the speed of light. And you know what the guy said? Oh, you discovered our little secret. He's like, our greatest embarrassment. I'm sorry. He said, our greatest embarrassment. And the guy said, well, I just figured it's an error measurement. Nope, it's not an error measurement. So there's these unexplained things in science that I think God gives us these little hints that we're not the masters of what we think we are.
No. Right.
And then there's all this other alternative theory, which would explain something like that. There's this idea of timelines messing around, right? So it's kind of interesting because, again, what God makes of it, we'll find out. It's so far beyond us that it's but it's kind of fun. It's fun to banter about it. It's fun to talk to White Wolf about it. It's fun to fun to hear what you guys think,
All right, so and I don't know if I read this, but he says gravity is empirical math based on a hypothesis. Even physics professors who are honest admit this, right? Exactly.
Yeah,
so
that's true. But again, all this stuff is supposed to be, the method, which is it's an imperfect tool. It's an imperfect tool because it's confined to 4 dimensions, right? At best, and then anything else has to be addressed with just mathematics. And the thing is that we do it on is something predictive. So if something's predictive, it doesn't prove anything. What it proves is that something happened more than once, right?
Yeah.
When we do the experiment. But there's a lot of BS in science, right? So there's a lot of experiments that if you pull the papers and you try to replicate them, they don't work.
Right.
So that's a big scandal in science. They try to keep quiet. In fact, my background's in industrial organizational psychology, and I did almost all of it. Doctor, I didn't do the dissertation. I did do one seminar, but my employer was paying for it at the time, the Canadian Navy, and but it was interesting. It was an interesting study, and I've always been fascinated by the psychology of normalcy. Right, like I was never into psychopathology. I can't tell you about all these various disorders. I never had any interest. I had the interest in what makes a good worker. How do you select a good priest, or how do how do you keep people in a job that you need them? How do you keep them engaged and happy? So that kind of stuff I really loved. But the big scandal in IO Psych, as we call it, industrial organizational psychology, again, there was a big expose. Like a lot of the stuff was just made up. It was small sample sizes, N numbers of 30 people and stuff, and these big studies, and companies and governments are making these huge decisions on really poor data. And then of course, you just want to get your degree and get out of there. But it's like, man, there's just a lot of smoke and mirrors. And the same thing with a lot of this science stuff is not repeatable. And then some of the crazy fringe stuff, like, it just kind of disappears, right? That no one's allowed to talk about it. It gets classified. So that is a true thing. That's not a tinfoil hat thing. There's a whole series of areas of science where people who apply it for patents get bought out and told, hey, you're not allowed to develop this, but we'll pay you, but you're stopping.
Yeah, no, even worse now also too, that you get published in academic journals just with clout. And like wasn't it, didn't someone like they put in like Mein Kampf in the scientific journal. It just changed gender from like, and it got admitted. And
hey, it's a wonder they're not a guest on The View, right?
Yeah, right. That should just tell you everything they needed. That should tell you everything.
See, can you imagine, Felix? You, me, and White Wolf go on guests on The View.
Oh, that'd be hilarious.
Wouldn't that be great? That'd be
yeah. I think the coolest one would probably be Whoopi, ironically. Yeah. But because Sunny and Joy are just insufferable to me. And
just unhappy
the other one.
I don't mean to get on that rabbit hole tonight either, but they're just unhappy. You know who there's a Canadian retired police officer who his whole YouTube channel is aimed at Americans, but he lives up in Canada and British Columbia, and his name is Clinton Jaws. His real last name is a big long multiple syllable Polish name, but since it starts like Jawrinski or whatever, so he goes by Clinton Jaws. But anyway, look up his YouTube channel if you're interested, because he loves to play clips from The View and make fun of them. And he's just a character, and he's just someone I'd love to have a beer with. I get such a kick out of him.
That's hilarious.
But anyway, yeah.
So Weivel says there are no satellites up there. Your dumb phone works by the network of cell tower and data and fiber optic nodes, which is very true.
I mean, the only thing I would say about that as a former naval officer, White Wolf, is that the satellites, they were so important for us, navigation wise, electronic charting wise. There's no cell phone out there, right? There's no cell phone.
No.
So and satellite phones. There were satellite phones on the ship, and we had some pretty incredible stuff, that military stuff that we rely on satellites for. But so
there you go.
I would just say I probably disagree with you on that, but I agree with you that my phone does not have satellite access. Well, ISS, something's up there.
I mean, but even with the you could kind of just say it's radio free, but that doesn't make sense, because why would they tell the person using it that it's not a satellite phone if it's not? I don't know that. Yeah, I'm with you on this, Father.
I gotta tell you,
I'm
military
with you on
world has stuff. Like I think some of it's becoming more public knowledge, but I'm just telling you, there's some crazy stuff the military has about 10, 20 years ahead of what people realize, and it's pretty neat. And a lot of it, we rely on satellite a lot.
When I was in, there was these pair of ear protection that had a little microphone in it. And you're talking about when you're out on a flight deck and the engines are revving, but you can still hear what someone's saying across the flight deck with this directional mic and not hear the jet engine. It was actually extremely impressive. But yeah. All right, now and again, I got to fly through these, and I'm talking through. ISS is not up there. I have seen pictures of it, but I haven't seen it personally. So that's where I'm like, okay.
Well, I tell you, the chemtrails are not a conspiracy theory. They all have admitted all that stuff's been proven true. And I, as a pilot, I mean, I know there's been a contrail and a chemtrail, and so I've been watching that for a while. So yeah, there's a lot of that. Unfortunately, who voted for this? Like, governments don't seem to be regulating it, and so I don't know. I mean, apparently Florida's got all these genetically engineered mosquitoes let loose by the evil Gates. Yeah. I don't know what to believe anymore, but I know that no one that I know of voted to have genetically engineered mosquitoes given the shots through being bloodsuckers.
And apparently he also slaughtered like hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of chickens just now.
Well, and not to mention a lot of Africans over the years, apparently.
Yeah, right. That's
true. That's another story. Yeah, but anyway, no basement in Florida. Exactly. You're right. It's just, it would be.
Father Higgins says, I literally went to K through 5 at MacDill Air Force Base at Tinker Elementary School. Ah, that's cool.
There you go.
World.
Okay, Tina. I don't know if you're still on, but that could be right. Oh, okay. I remember who that is now. Thank you. Yeah. So that guy's really creepy. That guy is strange.
Yeah, and
I saw an interview with him. I just forgot his name, right? But I saw an interview with him talking about this transhumanism, and that guy is a clear and present danger to humanity.
Yeah. No, it's funny because especially the more faith you have, the more when you see them trying to corrupt creation and meld technology with it, you're like, it just doesn't sit right, That's really all right. And I'm sorry, forgive me for flying through these guys, but yeah, we're like an hour over. White Wolf says, at that time shall Michael rise up, the great prince who standeth for the children of thy people. But all right, I think he's tying this to Fatima, but wasn't it Mother Mary who showed up? Or was there an apparition of Michael too?
Yes, that's where that prayer that we say that at the beginning of Mass comes from.
What? Yeah,
so there's your homework.
I need to educate myself seriously because
apparitions of Saint Michael at Fatima.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that is one avenue. Because from what I understand, it was the 3 girls were told to see the Mother Mary.
I love in the traditional requiem, in the offertory prayer, invoking Saint Michael to snatch the soul from the final clutches of the enemy. That's so neat.
Oh yeah, right. How many times has he done that? Right. That's kind of cool. Celestine V was forced into an invalid resignation by Boniface VIII.
Yeah, I said the second. I was wrong. Thank you for the fact check.
Well, Sanctus Service says supposedly there have been 6 to 11 papal resignations. Benedict V, 9 and 16th, Gregory the 6th and 12th.
I stand corrected there too. I thought there were only 2.
Potian, Marcellinus, Liberius, Silverius, John 18th, and Sylvester III.
Now, were some of these?
Doing
I
a
was
quick
wondering if some of those were considered anti-popes, though, because
Maybe.
that wouldn't really count for what we were talking about, even though they
Okay.
did technically resign. But
Right.
I don't know. That's actually an interesting thing. So I should fact check myself and reacquaint myself with that aspect.
All right, so Father Higgins said, I just say you have an admission process similar to a religious order. Nothing wrong with being particular.
Yeah, no, and every group has. I mean, it's all
Yeah.
good night, Archbishop. So every group has to decide like a spectrum of quantity and quality, right? So I mean, it's if you're too hard over, you can't expect perfect candidates because we're all works in progress. On the other hand, well, I wouldn't Archbishop Humphreys would never take me if he wanted perfect, right? But and then the other side of it is that you really do have to have guys that are brothers in arms in these times, because it's just like there's so much foolishness, guys. We got to put up with so much foolishness. If you got to fight with your own brothers, like it makes it miserable. It'd be like getting married to somebody who hates you. So
Yeah, right.
life's too short, and I mean a lot of us that are coming from the Novus Ordo too, we're just so tired of the fight. Like we're tired of the fight of basic things in the faith, right? So that's why you find a group that believes like you do, and you're like, God wants me here, and I may disagree with my brother about what he does with his schedule, or whether he leaves tracked dirt on the carpet, but I don't have to worry about him believing in a different God.
That's right. All right, now let me see. White Wolf says the best book on the young earth was written by Dr. Gentry back in the 50s. He debunks the Big Bang nonsense. It was tragic. He never had an audience with Pius VIII.
No, well, these guys, it's so funny. Like Saul Alinsky and Paul VI, for example. Like they get, I tell you, these popes, man, they'll have audiences with everybody, but the people that helped them on the mission.
All right, I'm going to tie these two comments together. Sancta says, one thing I must say, last time I was here, you asked if you made a mistake when talking about Marcionism. I proposed a small correction. And
what
then
I do?
He says, you misspoke that Marcion taught that the God of the Old Testament and New Testament were the same God. It's the opposite. Yeah,
no.
That's what he...
If I did, that was just like a brain fart.
It was a misspoke, yeah.
So that's actually one of the first heresies in the church, was that the Old and New Testament God, and what I meant to say is that Marcion is a bishop. Most heresies come from bishops, right? Yeah. So Marcion, the earliest heresy was that, and what I'm saying is Marcionism exists again today. So Arianism and Marcionism are back under different forms. So, like for example, when someone tells you that they believe in a loving God, if you want to stir the pot a little bit and just say, well, okay, you read the book of Joshua and then come back and tell me about your loving God. Right. No. And of course we believe in a loving God. But what I'm saying is that it's not loving in the way the world understands loving. It's not affirming. Like it's not affirming, it's not a comfort food. Our Lord is not like that. So that's what I do to stir the pot on the Marcionism, is I tell them to read the book of Joshua. So if I did say that, I'm very, very sorry. You got me curious. I want to go back on the replay, but if I did, it was probably just tired.
So White Wolf
that's one of my crusades. I only have one or two. Well, I should say I have about 6 themes, right? And that's one of them, is that the modernists are Marcionists. Yeah.
All right, so let's see. White Wolf says the Earth is not curved. That is refraction of the plane.
Well, no, but the thing is, you can see it even if you don't have glass on the side of the plane, right? So I mean, you could argue that it's something to do with a cork with her eye, maybe.
Yeah, no,
it's not the plane window. I'm not. If there's something going on, there's something going on with the way our eye and our brain maybe fools us.
You can,
but but no, the plane window, no.
You can 100%, like if you send a weather balloon up with not I keep always forgetting. There's the wide angle lens, and then there's the other type of camera that's not.
It's like that dude, the Red Bull guy, Felix, that jumped from the edge of space.
Yeah,
Baumgartner or whatever. You know what I mean?
But he now that's a great who's also named Felix.
Was he really? All right.
Yeah, his name was Felix. Now here's very interesting, right? So that satellite, that Red Bull satellite, had 2 cameras on it. One was the fisheye lens,
right?
The wide angle, and then the other was a normal lens.
Okay.
The normal one does not show curve. The wide angle one did. And you can
All
yeah.
right. Well,
So
there's a data point in favor of White Wolf.
Yeah. No, 100%. In fact,
But you still have to answer the Psalms, though, White Wolf, because the Psalms indicate there's I forget which one. You'd think after all these years of me bringing this up with people that I would know the number, but there is a Psalm that refers to the world being round.
I mean, but then there's also verses that refer to the firmament, right? And it is flat pretty much, right? Doesn't I think you can find both, and I think, and again, when in certain cases with the Psalms, you're using artistic license, and right, because he is writing.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is one of these areas that I'm all for
now we're
non-conventional
speculating
science. Like I confess my heliocentrism here this evening. I'm also totally fascinated with what's really going on under the ice of Antarctica. So there's a whole bunch of gravitational anomaly down there.
The ice wall.
but this stuff only makes sense if we have around Earth. So there you go.
Yeah, right. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we could keep running it into the ground, but I'm kind of with you on that too, Father. Like I said, same thing occurs with some beings through clouds. That does not mean the sun is 10 miles off the ground. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Universe is geocentric. Meikle see.
Yeah.
More so
well,
that.
It might be. I mean, again, I'm not unconvincible on that.
Wait, but then he says the Earth is definitely not whizzing around the sun. That's what. Yeah.
No,
right.
The math actually works, and again, you guys can fact check me on this one too. But my understanding is, the math actually works. If the sun is in the third position, it will still appear the same as we say it if the Earth is rotating around it. So if the sun's in the third position and it goes around the Earth, but again, I'm just not convinced on that. I find a heliocentric understanding easier to defend and easier to get my head around. And where I get that from was the temperature distribution. So, and also the alignment of the ecliptic.
I think we chased everybody off except White Wolf. All right, so let's see.
We did.
And then he says, all right, we'll power through these. I agree the Earth is not flat. Okay. Right. And then he says, an evolutionary biologist sounds like a magical chemist. Amen. I agree with that. Yeah. These constants are not constants. Most of them, like the speed of light, are hyperbolic. Yes, speed of light is slowing down. And then if you extrapolate back 6,000 years, the speed of light is virtually instantaneous. Yep, I agree. That's just kind of cool. And the entropy began with the atom's fall. Yeah. That's pretty much what's taught. And again, I'm sorry I'm flying through these, but yeah, we're almost here at the end.
Well, there's just the three of us now.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Sancta Servant says, hey, if alternate timelines theory is correct, maybe there's a timeline where in my childhood favorite Japanese comic book, the protagonist marries the deuterogenist.
What is the deuterogenist?
I don't know who that is.
Do you guys know what that is? I have no idea.
Yeah.
All right.
And White Wolf says you were not navigating by satellite. The military navigates using the magnetic field and Polaris. Okay.
Well,
we'll
I
see.
don't know. I got to tell you, after my celestial navigation classes, that you don't want too many of us navigating by Polaris on the warships, White Wolf.
Sure.
Well, again, no, I love this because here's the thing. Like, again, I think he's probably right on
some of this stuff,
more
right?
Than half of it, if not 80% of it, and I have some things I'm just not,
Yeah. There's
I look at everything like data points in favor and data point, So I'm open to I'm not one of these guys that's gonna ever probably say to you, it's definitely geocentric versus heliocentric versus, that we're just a backwater part. You're never gonna say see me make a affirmation of certainty on any of that stuff.
Other than Jesus is Lord,
as certain as I can be, are the 20 doctrinal councils excluding all innovation contrary, right? But I don't. But I'm open. I'm definitely open. I'm not gonna, like I say, feel hard done by that.
Right.
And I definitely think this evolution stuff is just so horrible.
Oh, that's for the birds. Yeah.
it's so ridiculous. The Cardinal Pell incident with Dawkins, man, like that debate was just an embarrassment for every baptized Christian. Pell, whom I love, in the sense that he at least he tried to be one of the good guys, and he gets up there and he's trying to be with it, and he's like, oh yeah, Adam and Eve are just allegory, and then Dawkins just shuts him down. Explain original sin. Just boom. You're done. Just take off the collar and go have a nap, right? Like, just seriously, dude. Like, yeah.
White Wolf says the papal resignations during the Great Western Schism were not resignations.
Right. That was my point earlier. Is that they don't really count in the context of what we were talking about.
And then all of those other names were not resignations. They were popes that were captured by the Romans and delegated authority to another, anticipating their martyrdom.
Well, there you go. That's interesting.
White Wolf doesn't mess around. I really respect where he's coming from.
Well, that's why he was a favorite. He was a favorite visitor of the Rundown, and anytime he wants to come in our direction, it's great.
Yeah. But he has a crazy. He's got a crazy streak. I see it. And hey, listen, that it's still very welcome here, just to be clear. But it is.
Well, and you guys, I want you to do what Sanctus did here, okay? So, if I get something wrong, like, again, there's a difference between, I want you to correct it, right? Like, I tell my flock too, like, I want you to fact check everything, because the thing is, normally on theological stuff, I'm pretty good. Like, I wouldn't call myself a walking encyclopedia, but I'm not quite that good, but I'm fairly good, and so. What I'm getting at is that, it's when people do their own research and they say, oh yeah, Meikle was right about this and this, and I haven't heard about this. That only works in our favor for the work that we do, right? That people realize that you're a trustworthy source of information. However, if you do something like this and you have a brain fart, well, that's not very helpful. So you guys, it's never an insult for you guys to correct something that I misspoke or I misunderstood, or sometimes I mishear.
Yeah. All right, so Sanctus.
Well, I got the Celestine thing definitely wrong. I was going to say it was second. That was what was in my head. So,
and this is the last comment. Yeah. Let me read. He says, speaking of Celestine Fifth, it's really interesting. He is Saint Celestine Fifth and has been honored for centuries as such, and yet Dante has him in Inferno because he resigned when he shouldn't have. Yeah, well, I mean, Dante, as great as that, as cool as that book was, it's not.
Well, no, but I mean, here's the thing. Like, Scripture does indicate, no one puts hand to plow and turns away, right? So there's a data point. I view these things all as data point. We try not to presume the judgment of God, but you can understand why the editorial choice was made to put him where he did.
Yeah, I mean, but that is kind of weird because if he's canonized, why
the fifth is?
That's what he's saying, that he is Saint Celestine.
Oh, yeah, Saint. All right. Okay, there you go.
So that if he's canonized, why put him in? Anyway, but
if he's canonized by the old process, then you're kind of silly to put him in the Inferno.
Yeah. Oh, we have one last one. A deuterogenist is generally a character who's more important than a side character, but one step below the protagonist. Usually they are with protagonists.
You have educated me in something today because I never heard tell.
I've never heard that. So like Sam.
It kind of makes sense when I'm looking at breaking up sort of the prefix and suffix here. Now that you say it, it makes perfect sense. But I don't think I've ever heard of that. That's neat. All right. Well,
am I saying it right?
Thank you so much for those of you who went through 3 hours and 24 minutes with us. God love you. I mean, that's Felix and I went above and beyond. We are aiming at 2 hours.
We went crazy today.
And when Father Martin and I and LaFour get on, we just have a 1 hour thing, but we don't. And then I think Father Martin has a Friday night leisure, and he does that, sort of takes viewer questions and stuff. But it's funny because I even wondered if I should have a call line and take a featured question, like just people leave an answering machine message.
We'll never leave.
But the thing is, if we have them, if you guys keep, bringing home the comments like tonight, we don't need a call line.
No. Yeah. No, I love this. This was great.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us so much, and thank you all. If you love God and you're in the fight and you honor your baptism and you honor our Blessed Mother and you honor our Lord and you try to live the first commandment, you do your morning offering, your evening examen, work up to 30 minutes mental prayer, frequent the sacraments wherever you can. Like we're on the same boat, and don't let Twitter or YouTube drag you down or gaslight you. We're going to enter in a time where there's a lot of deception, and you have to trust our Lord Jesus when he says you judge the false teacher and the good teacher by their fruit. And so you want to look at people that are always pointing to the scripture, to the saints, to the councils, and to fide aspect. And as long as that's their authority, you're not going to be misled, because then that teacher is just a curator. They're not the source of the truth. They're like the tour guide. And you can't go wrong there. But there's a lot of people that are claiming, their own authority. And that's not on. That's why I always try to encourage people just to do their homework. And, I'm wondering, I'm a little scared that in time that a lot of these electronic resources will be kind of revised, right? So there is something to be said about making sure we have paper books in our major libraries and stuff like that, theological libraries. But even I use electronic 99% of the time because it's just so more convenient.
Yeah.
And,
VCR, reel-to-reel, cassette, and all that, vinyl, all those things are important.
Yeah.
Well,
there's a place for the low-tech stuff. There is, for sure. My brother is a musician. He still has one of those amps that has the vacuum tube with the horn that goes around. Yeah.
That's right. That's how you need it. Yeah, those are the best, nice, warm analog sound. That's right. No, he knows what he's doing.
That's what he swears by. All right. In the name of the Father, of the Son, of the Holy Ghost. Amen. God, our Father, creator of all things, we praise and thank you for your gifts. We thank you so much for this time together, this special time together. Help us always to incline our hearts towards what you wish us to see and believe and live. May Almighty God bless us, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. Amen. I will see you guys next week. Thank you so much again for staying through to the end. For those that did, that is truly treasure in heaven, heroic perseverance. God bless.
Stunning and brave. Bye, everybody.